Hell yeah. We made it to QQQ. Yeah. Woo! Oh my God. I had to wash my hands a couple of times because I just had sweaty palms for, like 3 hours. Oh my God. We did it. We made it. Holy cow. Uh, everybody's in the chat. I guess it's just me in the chat for a while. We've got our little DM stream. I think a couple people might jump on at some point, but it might just be me and work at the comments. And you know what? I might as well throw the comments on the screen so everybody can see them. How do I do this? Let's see here. Turn this off, and then I think I can add this to the screen overlay. Let's try that. Hell yeah. There it is. We've got the whole thing. Oh man. Wow. This is such a big deal, right? This is such a freaking big deal. Let's see. I got some whiskey, of course. What am I going with? I've got Brook Lottie Octomore for this celebratory occasion. It's the edition 15.3. I'm feeling peated. It's gonna get crazy. I think this one's pretty extreme. 61.3%. It's it's up there. Wow, we made it. Hell yeah. Cheers, everybody. I know it's Friday night and people are out at the bars having dinners with family and stuff. And my wife went out to just hang out with some friends. And I've got dog duty tonight. And actually it's funny, you can see my little candle here. Smells like I was right about Bitcoin. My wife got me this for my birthday. Love that. Here we go. A little whiskey. Cheers. Bingo. So many comments. I'm not going to be able to keep up with these, but I will stop and hang out with some of them along the way. Oh man. Wow. This is such a big deal. This is such a freaking big deal. I know some people may not see it as a big deal. Do I expect the stock to go up, on Monday? Who knows? Who knows exactly where this goes, right? But the biggest thing is Bitcoin now has huge, massive institutional adoption. Massive institutional adoption. QQQ, NASDAQ 100, is the 5th largest index ETF in the world by assets under management. The 5th largest ETF in the world. I'm going to cheers to that. Cheers. So that means, we've got the 5th largest ETF in the world. All of the passive flows that go into buying QQQ are going to be buying MicroStrategy at any price. The coolest thing here is, the coolest thing that I'm most interested in is not necessarily the flows on day one, but the flows on month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, month 7, month 20, month 40, year 6, year 7, year 8, year 9. These are passive flows that are going to continue compounding over and over and over and over again. And the reason this is so big is because all of these funds are market cap weighted, right? All of these funds are market cap weighted. So as the market cap grows, right? So if MicroStrategy continues to be, powered by Bitcoin, which it is powered by Bitcoin, as the market cap grows, its proportion in the index grows not linearly, it grows exponentially. And I don't know if many of you saw it. I think one of the bigger takeaways when that Bloomberg thing came out, you know what? I'm going to see if I can find it. I'm going to pull it up. When that Bloomberg teaser came out about MicroStrategy getting added to the index. Let me see if I can find it. Bloomberg QQQ editions. Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, hold on if we can find it. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm going to show you how big this is because this is really important. I'm going to share. Where is it? My share the screen. There we go. I'm going to hide the chat overlay for a second. Okay, here we go. The reason this is so big, check this out. MicroStrategy as an addition, getting a new weight of 0.46%. Oh, I think Ben's going to join.
Is this where we say I told you so? I'm not sure which part of this we're at.
Cheers, Ben. Cheers, my man. Big day.
This is going to get out of hand really quick. I'm eating in an airport Chili's, and it is just wild, right? I mean, we just finally got done talking about this forever, right? There was the part of me that goes, did I just waste months tracking this stuff, right?
Just tracking it.
We didn't.
Yeah,
we were right.
Congrats, Ben. Yeah, we were right. It feels really good. It feels really good.
It does.
It feels
probably
really
more so
good.
than it should, right? Like here we are doing our little internet thing, right? But you know,
internet
these feel
friends.
like the victories that we're living for at the moment. So it's good to be it's good to be vindicated. It's good to get past all of the you know financial company stuff that was floating around out there and all that fun. We made it, man. We made it.
We made it. We made it. I mean, this is so big. And so I pulled up this screen to show people why why this is so important. It's not necessarily day one flows. Like day one flows are huge, right? Day one flows are amazing. But look at Apple, right? Like the bigger thing here is like, look at Apple going from an 8.77 weight to a 9.77 weight results in $4.2 billion of increased buy side volume. Like,
I got to pause you for a minute, Jeff, because this is all cool. But did you see that Sailor retweeted your stream?
That's the first Sailor retweet.
There you go. I mean, how wild is that?
So
I don't know how
sick.
many people are in this thing. You might be able to see somewhere, but
I've got 12,500.
Who's having a better day than we are, right? I mean, unbelievable.
Oh my God. I was telling everybody my palms were sweaty for like the last 3 hours. You know, I was like just trying to do anything to pass the time. I took my dogs out for a walk, like, and it was just pouring rain. It's like, I've got to just, you know, waste some time here and get to 5 o'clock. So, oh man, it feels so good. It feels so freaking good. And for that, I'm going to have another sip of my whiskey here.
For sure. I'll jump back on. Give me a few minutes. I'll get out of my friendly neighborhood Chili's here. But I'll be back on there in just a few minutes when I get out to the freedom of the conference.
Yeah. Come hang out. I let everybody else know that I'll be here. I'll hold this space open for a while. People can come hang out. Whatever. Enjoy your food.
For sure, man. I'll be back in a few.
All right. See you in a few. Wow. Okay. Sailor retweeted the feed. Well, that's awesome. The whiskey is fantastic. It is, again, we've got Bruichladdich Octomore. It's 15.3, a special whiskey, and it's very peated. I like the peated stuff. That's, you know, some of my favorite stuff. Wow. We made it. Holy moly. Our group thread has been talking about this moment for almost a year. Well, I guess Ryan and I started talking about this QQQ inclusion, you know, back in Quant Bros episode 1, back when the market cap of the stock was like $2 billion or $20 billion. I think that's what we're talking about. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. And I mean, things can be really exciting from here on out, right? So the reason this is so important too is like having a continuous buy side, a continuous bid from these passive indices. MicroStrategy's credit quality just went through the roof, right? So we've got increased credit quality from MicroStrategy. We've got a Fed meeting next week where we may see a 25 basis point reduction in interest rates, and all of a sudden, you know, MicroStrategy might be offering convertible debt at a 70% conversion premium or 80 or 90% conversion premium, or maybe negative interest rates, right? Or negative coupon bond or negative coupon payments, or, you know, who knows exactly what this looks like. But I think that's very bullish for the future of MicroStrategy's convertible debt and future financial products that they're going to be able to offer, whether that's traditional debt at good interest rates, or convertible debt, or preferred stock that offers dividends, or all of these other things can all help the stock moving forward. So it's all good for Bitcoin, which is so exciting. And and thinking about, how Saylor talks about this, how Saylor is marketing this to all of the other companies in the entire market. It's going to offer them the ability to get into these larger indices, get included in these larger indices, and influence their stock into the future as well. So I'm really excited for these other companies that are adopting this strategy, like Semler Scientific, even Riot and Mara, that are adopting this strategy. As soon as you get to a $14 billion market cap and you have positive earnings, all of a sudden you're qualified for the S&P 500, and you've got 1,000 companies that are probably between 500 million and 14 billion in market cap, where you just have to be a little bit brave to adopt a Bitcoin treasury strategy. And all of a sudden you have increased credit quality and you're making it into larger indices that are market cap weighted, and you get this continued benefit over time. So this is like totally, this is all going to compound on itself. I mean, the positive news that's going to come out of this is also massive, right? I'm really curious to see what the stock does next week and in the next month, because I remember back in October there was a space with Joe Carlosar, and even he was mentioning, like, MicroStrategy is never going to get into the QQQ. They need positive earnings, or he said a couple of comments like that, and I was just like, this is so wrong, right? Like, they hit all of the requirements, and there is no earnings requirement for NASDAQ inclusion. So I don't think the market is expecting them to get in. And I think that we could see a massive narrative change in the next week. Right? This could be on CNBC. This is going to be all over it's going to be plastered over the news, right? This isn't, well, a Ponzi scheme just got added to QQQ. It's like, what? It's not a Ponzi scheme, right? Oh my God. Wow. Holy cow. This is crazy. Let's jump in the chat. You guys are electric, by the way. Thank you. Let's see if we got any fun comments to talk about here. Invite Saylor to speak. Give him the link. Maybe I'll shoot him the link via DM if he wants to come chat. He probably won't come. But hey, you know what? Hail Mary. We got Adrian too. Adrian on the chat.
What's up?
What up, man?
Where's Ben? I thought I just saw Ben.
Yeah, he's
he's at the airport.
Yeah, he's finishing his Chili's.
Okay.
I
saw that Saylor retweeted us.
Yeah.
We need to invite him, is what we need to do.
I threw him a Hail Mary. I threw it to his DMs. So Saylor, if you're on and you are available and want to join and talk about this, cool. If not, if your lawyers are going to be all over you, totally fine.
Yeah, that's true. He might have to clear it with legal and all that before he can even hop on impromptu.
Yeah. So, if you don't make it, I will not be offended.
No.
Wow. Holy cow. Adrian, how do you feel, man? I mean, we've been talking about this for
a year.
A year. Yeah, like literally a year. Back when they were at a market cap of, $20 billion, something like that. Maybe even less.
It was less. It was less.
MSTR market cap. I'm gonna pull that up.
Because the first time we messaged each other was the Draymond meme. And that was like that was like in January or February, I want to say. And then my who the fuck is Metler Sherlito article that blew up. And then we started talking about that.
That was a good one.
Yeah,
that was a really good one.
And then we just kind of kept talking about MicroStrategy ever since. But yeah, no, I mean, I feel fine. I thought it was going to happen. I'm not surprised that it did happen. I would have been more surprised if it didn't. I don't think we were by any means, dependent on this outcome by any means. No, number
No.
go up regardless, right?
Yeah.
So, but having it happen, I think that definitely adds, obviously, from a market perception standpoint, it adds cachet to MicroStrategy now, especially considering that Supermicro got booted.
They got booted, which is big.
Yeah, and they were one of MicroStrategy's, larger peers, right? They were ones that MicroStrategy at one point was looking up at, and they got
Right.
booted today. Moderna also got booted, which I thought was kind of hilarious.
That's crazy. It's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Like how? I mean, I don't want the stream to get like flagged or anything, but with all the COVID money and all the vaccine money, it's like how do you?
Right.
I don't get it. But
billions. I mean, the vaccines were
billions upon billions. Yeah,
man.
So
I never listened to their earnings calls, but I'm sure those were probably
same.
crazy.
But I'm sure they're not hurting.
Yeah.
So now, in my mind, I think the big game is S&P 500, right?
Oh yeah.
So I do think that can happen next year, probably middle of the year to the end of the year. Some people are saying, "Oh, it's going to happen in January." I'm like, "Are you even paying attention to what we've been saying?"
Yeah, no, it's no,
no, that's not
definitely not going to happen. Definitely not going to happen.
But we're going to have the FASB rule changes. We're going to have some QQQ passive flows. We're going to have number go up. We're going to have bewilderment intensifying, and the rest is going to take care of itself. So I'm not really worried about it. Right now, I can't believe MicroStrategy has turned me back onto options, but with the number of shares I have, it's just too easy to do it.
Yeah, they talked about it on CNBC today. I didn't watch it, but people were saying like they were talking about how crazy the options chain is, and like somebody was selling covered calls, and it's so true. Like people haven't figured out how powerful the option chain is yet. And once Bitcoiners figure it out and do like a little bit of learning about how powerful the option chain is, like even IBIT's not as crazy, but for MicroStrategy, if you want to earn a yield on your Bitcoin and you know what's going on, there's no better place to do it than the options chain.
1 week at a time.
Yeah.
Literally just go a week out at a time. I've been making a killing the last month. It should be almost illegal.
Dude, I looked at it today, 1 week out. So 5 days to expiration. So today you could sell 100% out of the money for 0.5%. I think it was the return, 0.5% return. So you're making almost 2% a week. Or 2% a month, almost 2% a month on your portfolio if you're selling 100% out of the money for that week. And if your shares get called away, you're like, okay, well, I just made 100% on my shares, and it just depends on how much you want to put at risk. It's totally insane.
Well, like the call you hopped on today that you were on very briefly that I was on, a lot of these guys are talking about, oh yeah, I want to do MSTU, I want to do MSTX options, I want to do I'm like, how many shares do you even have? And what's your risk tolerance? If you're willing to risk it on MSTU, are you concerned if your shares get called away after a week? Is a price really going to run away from you in a week?
I mean, it could. We've seen it move 50% in 2 days. So
yeah, but how often is that going to happen?
Yeah, it's few and far between.
Right, and if you got
so it kind of depends on if you're paying attention, right? Like if you're paying attention and you know what's going on.
I mean, we are, but most people aren't.
Most people aren't. And that's where, some of this is, it just kind of depends on how big your stack is, how long you've been in this trade, how, after these inclusions, right? Like after QQQ and potential S&P 500, the possibility of having a large enough stack to run a covered call strategy, it gets a lot more expensive as a buy-in.
It does.
It gets a lot more expensive as a buy-in. So we're almost at like peak retail holder being able to run this strategy, almost. Because, a retail holder isn't going to ape in $500,000 in, mid 2025 to run this strategy. Like there's going to be far less of those people than there are, the people that are the retail holders that are holding large stacks right now. that are going to be able to run covered call strategies in the future. And
Yeah.
if you think about it, right, like if there's another 10-to-1 split, which is very likely,
If they do, I'm going to be all over that.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, think about how powerful the 10-to-1 split, the prior 10-to-1 split was. There's Ben. Let's add him back in here.
Enjoy his chilies.
Ben's back.
You want to know how wild the internet is?
How wild is the internet?
Someone found me.
No way!
No
way!
Oh, dude, no. I'll be like, hi, thanks.
Somebody was like, oh my god, the Chili's airport. Now you're like
funny.
hiding.
Yeah.
Now you're like hiding. That is crazy.
Wow.
So
I mean,
whoever's on the live stream that found me, that was pretty funny.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh my god. Well,
but with the whole options thing, and like I talked about this with Ben, like so I have my shares that I'm not touching that are in like my Charles Schwab and whatnot, right? So I have my Robinhood for my DGen shit that I'm going to be taking risks with. The amount of shares I have in there is just dumb for me not to take advantage of the options with the covered calls. It's essentially free money, right? I just do it a week out or 2 weeks out, sit on my hands, wait for the premium, and then voila.
yeah, I wouldn't say it's free money. It's like it's almost strategic taking money off of the table if it happens, right? Because let's say 5% of your stack you're selling covered calls on, and the price runs to that, like the price of the stock runs to that price. You're getting that price. If your willingness to sell hits that, it's almost like putting a sell order out there. Basically,
It is.
That's pretty much what it is.
Did we just get in the QQQ and you guys are out here talking about how to take short positions on
No. We're talking about
you're selling covered calls. You're going short, my guys.
That's
So
true.
That's what it is. That's a short position.
It is a short, but it's a
fair.
strategic.
These are bear sightings with capital on the line. I don't know what category that puts you guys in, but I know we got a classification for it.
Call it an opportunistic bear. I don't know if you want to call it that or what, but it's a small. It's a
how about a 2% bear? 2% bear.
Yeah, it's a small
2%
percentage.
black bear.
It's not my whole stack here.
What was that drug-riddled bear? I mean, come on. Just got in. Get through the weekend, Adrian. Get through the weekend, man.
This is gonna be crazy. So the real question is,
Taylor's going to untweet this so that because
oh my god,
you guys are shorting his stock now.
That's so funny.
Probably.
So
I'll never get a follow.
So Sailor's probably going to buy more Bitcoin on Monday.
Probably
going to buy more Bitcoin on Monday, which, you know, if people start figuring out this QQQ thing over the weekend and they realize, oh my God, this isn't a Ponzi scheme, or like, you know, how many more people are going to figure this thing out over the weekend before this thing starts continuing to go? I think this is a bullish signal regardless. And the fact that QQQ has also happened before S&P 500, which I think is pretty freaking rare. I think it's pretty rare
I'm
to
not
get in.
sure.
I think, well, think about it, right? Like the market cap in order to get in QQQ is like 60 billion. Okay. So the market cap to get in the S&P 500 is 14 billion. Okay. But you just need positive earnings to get into the S&P 500. So the fact that they're getting included in the NASDAQ 100 before they get included in the S&P 500 is pretty rare. I think there are very few equities that's happened to. I don't know about Amazon. I need to go back and research more on Amazon. I think Amazon, it happened to Amazon, and definitely Tesla, right? So Tesla, it happened in 2013, but they didn't get the S&P inclusion until 2020. Now with MicroStrategy, the reason this is so crazy is because the confluence of all of these factors at the same time, right? Like FASB fair value accounting happens in Q1 of 25. And if Bitcoin runs, like I think Bitcoin only needs to move $12,000 in Q1 2025. So in 3 months, it needs to move $12,000. And that erases the past 4 quarters of negative earnings. Or it may be even less. I want to say it might be like $5,000 or $6,000. Like it's not very much because of the size and scale of their Bitcoin position. So all of a sudden, now you have positive earnings and potential inclusion in the S&P 500, which is going to be super contentious. Super contentious. Like QQQ is pretty
tougher. Right?
QQQ is pretty simple, right? It's like you hit this equation and you're not a financial company, you get in. Now the S&P 500, there's the committee that comes into play, which is, I think, why Tesla officially qualified for S&P inclusion in July of 2020. And so they were qualified for the September inclusion, but they didn't get included until December. So they got skipped for a quarter because I think it was super contentious because no other company had been included in the S&P 500 at such a large market cap. And I think they were also concerned about volatility. Maybe they were concerned about the Bitcoin on the balance sheet at that time. I don't recall exactly when Musk bought Bitcoin, but that might have been a factor. And there were so many things to take into consideration there. So
I think you're going to have to start tracking their profitability with your S&P 500 thing, Jeff, right? Because if they roll over at the end of the year,
right,
that locks in the 4 quarters that you got to wipe out. But because you're really looking at the gain from January 1st to the end of the quarter, right? There's going to be a point where they erase all that, hopefully.
And that's
so
where
that'll be the next thing to track.
That's where like slamming the ATM now makes a ton of sense, because if you can, throw as much Bitcoin on the balance sheet as possible, it takes much smaller move in the price of Bitcoin to flip your earnings, right? Because their negative earnings over the last year are a result of the intangible asset value accounting, where they had to mark it down. They had to mark down the value of the Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So, but that was with 150,000 Bitcoin or 189,000 Bitcoin or 200,000 Bitcoin, not 423,000 Bitcoin. So that impact. Oh, hey, we got Soleil as well. There it is. True North. True North is coming in hot.
That's right.
He must have heard the covered call bear selling that was happening, and he thought, I could get in on this. I can also short this stock.
That's right. I was walking the dogs and I saw the bat signal in the sky. So here I am.
The True North bat signal. The True North bat signal. Amazing. Yeah.
I think that Sailor retweeted this is still making me tickled. So I like that.
We've got 40,000 viewers right now, which is double our peak. That's
Which it doesn't make any sense, but I'm all for it.
The chairman effect.
yeah, that helps. That definitely helps. Which is also crazy, because I think the Q3 earnings call for MicroStrategy, which is the best earnings call of all time, it is like the Michael Jordan of earnings calls, I think only had 4,000 people on it. So we're like 10x the Q3 earnings call. If you're on this live stream and you have not watched the Q3 earnings call, go watch the Q3 earnings call. Do it this weekend. You will be very bullish.
So what episode is this? 11?
This is impromptu. It is technically 11, I think, but 10.5.
We'll go with 10.5. We'll go with 10.5.
Yeah.
The fact that the rest of the group has something else to do and wasn't sitting at home. Like, I'm walking through the airport, walking into people because I'm refreshing the NASDAQ page, trying to see when this press release comes out. And I finally just had to accept it as good enough when Sailor reposted or posted about it. So that's good enough for me.
It's good
so
enough.
If he thinks he's in, I believe he's in. But,
Confirmed.
The fact that the rest of these guys have something else to do tonight other than this is incredible.
Their lack of faith is disturbing, for sure.
Yeah. The dedication's really dwindling. I mean,
it's like, where are your priorities at, man?
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, like, even just the price of Bitcoin on Sunday night as going into this, right? Everybody's out doing their Friday night things. People will read the news tomorrow morning. Wait, we've got somebody else on here. Hold on. Who's this? Who do we got? Oh, we've got a toxic Maxi in the flesh. Rye Quant. What up, Ryan?
Don't let me interrupt mid-thought. Keep going.
No. We were, I guess, really just talking about, this weekend, right? Everybody's going to wake up tomorrow morning and they're going to, all these TradFi guys are going to read the Wall Street Journal. This is going to be in the news, right? This is going to be all over the place, because the company that they thought was a Ponzi scheme is now being included in the QQQ NASDAQ 100, and they're going to have to, step back and say, wait, hold on. What is this again? What is, maybe I should look into Bitcoin, or maybe I should just buy a forest instead.
There's still going to be guys shit talking it come Monday, even louder than before. Still.
Yeah. It's crazy, right? I was thinking about this, that strange LinkedIn interaction that I had the other day. And, it's funny to me, right? Like I grew up with the internet. I was born with I was born like with a computer. Like I was playing with computers since I was a little kid. I taught my parents about computers and like how they worked. And then you get somebody that's arguing with you about like the power of like the internet or the computer. They just don't understand the power of the internet or the computer or how the computer works, which is just kind of crazy. Oh, we got more. The squad is growing.
Oh yeah.
The bat signal.
Priorities.
Ben
They must
said,
have heard me
"What
trash talking them,
Yeah.
and they're all showing up now. Everyone's sitting there lazy in their room, just
getting
not
trash talked.
celebrating
Yeah,
like they
what-
should.
I was just gonna watch, and then Ben started talking, so I had to show up.
That's right. See, I'm not above guilting people into joining the stream. I mean, how often do you get into the NASDAQ 100, guys?
I
Come on.
mean, dude, we're gonna look back at this. This is crazy. So a couple crazy things. We've got a NASDAQ 100 stream. We went live like 20 minutes after Bitcoin passed 100,000, which is crazy. We're gonna look back on this time. It's gonna be really cool. And a lot of people have complained about the ATM usage. I think this is one of those scenarios where looking back on Saylor using the ATM, you're gonna say this is a no-brainer, right? Like this is a no-brainer using the ATM before, like just absolutely hammering it before a potential strategic Bitcoin reserve, right? Like if the US government buys 1 million Bitcoin in the next 12 months, the price is going to go ballistic. And
I don't think that's possible. I don't think the exchanges can handle that volume. Coinbase will crash for sure because that's what they do. But like, I mean, who's? I personally think that everyone still wants Binance knocked out of the park because they still have like 600,000 Bitcoin. So trying to pick them clean and maybe get them having less influence globally. But I don't know where the volume is going to come from, especially if it's all over the counter.
Well, I mean, as the price goes up, more sellers show up.
Well, yeah, but 1 million?
A million?
Mean, everybody has to watch the pod that Dan did with Matt UTXO, because that ATM selling is like a secret weapon for the inclusion. It was kind of crazy. They laid it all out. Who has the most percentages. The inclusion, and then the rebalancing, and then the passive inflows, covered it all.
You want to give us a quick rundown, Dan?
Yeah, that's kind of what you've been saying, Jeff. It's totally to your point, but Matt did a really good job of laying it out and showing the share. One, that for most companies, when their share price goes up or down without crazy stock issuance or stock buybacks, the indexes are kind of self-balancing. Like if they have a 10% weighting and their share price goes up by 1% or 10%, their weighting kind of stays intact. They don't have to do large amounts of rebalancing. But for MSTR, if they double their outstanding shares, but the share price trades flat, then there's going to be huge. They're going to be short 50% of the outstanding shares, and so they'll have to buy it. Or 50% of the weighting, they'll be short half of the. So if they're weighted as 1% of the index, MSTR trades flat, but they double the number of outstanding shares, they're short 0.5% of MSTR's float, which needs to be bought during rebalancing, quarterly rebalancing.
Yeah, it's the market cap is running, and the index isn't up to date on its relative weight.
Yeah, exactly.
The market cap is running, and the index is not up to date on its relative weight.
And it doesn't, and it's like it's a very straightforward idea, but it's easy to overlook. It's like the price doesn't need to go up as long as he's continuing to issue these shares. The market cap's increasing.
Yeah,
which softens the downside, right? So if things start to draw down, but he's issuing more shares, the market cap's going to stay more stable. But then when the price expands again, all of a sudden that market cap explodes. And if that happens around those waiting periods, you could see a lot of capital coming in.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. And somebody said this: tell the first-time viewers who to follow and how to follow. Actually, this is a really good idea. So, welcome everybody. This is MSTR.
If they're not on this call, don't follow.
There are
dedication.
That's so fucking petty, but I love it.
It is, guys.
There are.
I know this.
47,000 people on this call right now, which is more than double our prior peak. This is MSTR True North, episode 10.5/11. an impromptu MSTR being included in the QQQ. The group of people on this call are included in a group called MSTR True North. We have an X account. It's at MSTR True North. You could find it on X. We have Quant Bros YouTube channel. We have live streams that we do every Wednesday. You could come and watch the live stream on Wednesday. Those are a lot of fun. Last week we talked about, or on last Wednesday, we talked about quantum computing. We laughed our asses off while, Adrian was giving us a masterclass.
The comments, man, were just...
the comments were epic.
They were killing
it. And we talk about everything that's going on with MicroStrategy. We like to be at the knife's edge of this trade. Everybody on the screen has been in this trade for at least over a year, likely more.
Mhm.
Everybody has been selected for their individual expertise in the space, and we like to have a well-rounded view of the entirety of the MicroStrategy trade. So please join us every Wednesday. We have a lot of fun. We are the Kid Analysts, and yeah, that's it. That's all I got. And if you want to find our individual accounts, you can see them on our names here. Ryquant in the middle. Where am I going? Ryquant in the middle. No longer has a Twitter, but that's because he is doing bigger and better things, and he has graduated from Twitter, and he's now tackling some LinkedIn crazies. So, which might be even worse. But we are building and expanding the Bitcoin ecosphere and treasury adoption amongst corporations. So go ahead, Ryan. You want to chat? Jump in. Welcome.
Yeah. I think now might be a good time to touch on some of the basics here, right? I've been long saying that the human psychology here, the human nature is so easily predictable. There was very little chatter when Jeff and I were individually talking about MicroStrategy, both positive and negative. There was just very little chatter in general. Nobody cares about the stock when it's dirt cheap, but now that it, screams up to $500 after a stock split, all that stuff, then everyone feels like, here's the reality. Then everyone feels like, they have to make a comment on the stock. And I'm just so unbelievably worn out from engaging with these people. I mean, some of the dumbest people on planet Earth have strong opinions about MSTR, and they don't even phrase them as opinions. They say these things like they're facts. Meanwhile, everyone on this call will post something and be like, I'm not 100% sure. This is I've spent months on this one aspect, and this is my best judgment. But just to touch on some of the common things, I've seen, that all the CFAs, I've seen one of the CFAs preying on the investors. Let's think about that for a second. Ask these people, and they'll never respond, but ask these people, do you know off the top of your head who the largest shareholder of MicroStrategy is? And even Corey Clipston and the Swan guys had no idea. It's they were BlackRock. It's no, it's Saylor himself. Saylor is the shareholders. You know what I mean? Or just, the guy who was you should buy a forest, or, it's a Ponzi scheme loaded up with debt. They'll stress the debt aspect as if have you seen General Motors? Have you seen Boeing? Loaded to the gills with debt. Nobody cares about that. Have you seen Palantir? It's at 400 times earnings. Nobody cares about that. I do think this is the most hated trade of all time. From the Bitcoin purists to the finance boomers to the CFAs, most of them have done no work on this stock, but it's just the topic of the day for these people. It wasn't a 2-year full-time job for these people. It's just the topic of the day. And next week or next month or next year, they'll be talking about something else,
I mean, they'll still be talking about this.
Yeah.
This one's going to be devastating to a lot of people for a long time.
Oh, yeah. We don't have to see the MSTR as a finance company. They're not getting in tweets anymore.
Oh my God.
Well, the new ones are going to be are they going to be reclassified? Is ICB going to reclassify them? Blah, 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 blah. I already know that's coming. But honestly, right now, who gives a shit?
Well, hold on. This is a business intelligence company.
Mm-hmm.
They have AI for BI.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't think they're using that shit for Bitcoin, you're out of your mind.
Well, it's
You're
like, what
out
are
of
they
your
doing
mind.
servicing the debt? I don't understand the argument. It's like, what's servicing the debt? Is it their core business? And what's their core business?
The software tech company.
There you go.
Yeah, it's like there it is.
I've never understood the argument.
The craziest thing is like all the people that say that, right? Is like every company is a treasury company, right? Most
Exactly.
companies are just fiat treasury companies, which is inefficient. Michael Saylor has just said, okay, I want to be a Bitcoin treasury company. And it's like, that's it. Like all companies, all corporations in the entire world are protecting and growing their treasuries. Some are fiat treasury companies, and there are now a few Bitcoin treasury companies, and we're going to start to see hybrid treasury companies and more Bitcoin treasury companies. And this is an adapt or die scenario. I don't feel bad for Microsoft. I mean, honestly, it's probably good for my house value that they, and like my future life living in Seattle, that they don't adopt it. But, you know, other companies are going to adopt this strategy, and you're going to see companies with between $1 billion and $10 billion adopt this strategy, and they're going to run to the top of the publicly traded leaderboard as they thrust Bitcoin into an asset in parity with gold. It's going to be really exciting to see.
Yeah, I think everyone was getting too caught up on thinking NASDAQ was going to make a knee-jerk reaction to some statements that people made online, right? Like when you look at the classification, that's pretty black and white, right? There's not a lot of wiggle room there. They rely on specific agencies to do classifications. You stick with that. When it's 100% of your revenue, either you have to completely redefine how you're evaluating the classifications for a company, or you need to single out one specific one to exclude them. Which one carries higher risk to NASDAQ, right? Methodology like these that have been so entrenched for so many years, and all these people are depending on for figuring out how these indexes are going to work, right? Making a knee-jerk change like that to single out one entity is a much higher risk than sticking with your standard classification practices, right? Why play games with it? And if you really do need to think about this, about whether or not one company utilizing their treasury so much better than all the other companies on earth, if that fundamentally changes the way you're going to classify that business, that's a major shift in that methodology. And those types of shifts don't come easy because you have to reevaluate every organization on earth and separate the operating company and the treasury operations. And you need to figure out what it is, where's the cutoff where you now determine that, well, your operating company no longer matters. It's
new
all
rules
just about your treasury. Totally new rules.
They're not going to set new rules. Like the whole thing is that they don't set new rules.
Doing that would invalidate the entire methodology. It would open the door for them to have a look at every other company they've ever let in. I don't know if it could potentially open them up to lawsuits. I don't know what doors it would open, but also the whole notion of them being a treasury company. I think it needs to be, the definitions need to be expanded to what Ben was saying. For instance, Bitcoin might be an asset, but it's also technology. It's backed up. It's backed by code. It's backed by energy. It is backed by software. So you're trying to say that the technology company is no longer a technology company, but the asset that they're using to bolster their balance sheet is technology. That was never going to work, even if they had tried to say that we didn't want to let them in for X, Y, or Z. Now with S&P, I think there's more nuance there because they're far more picky and there are a lot more areas where they can try to cherry pick. But I think, I'm not speaking for anyone else on the call, that QQQ inclusion almost in a way cemented S&P inclusion.
It's game theory.
I will be hard pressed to see S&P not happen now that QQQ has happened. I actually think QQQ is more important in terms of long-term perception, while S&P is more important in terms of overall market sentiment. Once they get into the S&P 500, all of this talk about Ponzi scheme and they're not a technology company and blah, 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 that all has to go out the window because you would have to open the door for every company in the S&P 500 to be considered a Ponzi scheme. And considering a lot of them use debt to buy back their own shares, the door is open for that conversation. So I don't know if people want to do that.
And S&P 500 represents 3 of the 5 largest index ETFs in the world. It's number 1, number 2, and number 3. So the sense of scale here is like the S&P 500 is like 4 or 5 QQQs. If like, just to put that in scale. So if we see any price action, again, I have no idea what the price is going to do next week, right? Like Sailor's still got the ATM. We have no idea what the price is going to do. None of this is financial advice. But the scale is huge. The scale is massive. We could see like 2 billion. You could see 4-6-ish billion potentially buying MicroStrategy, and who knows what the market cap will be when they actually get included, because you have to have the positive earnings. And if the market cap runs to 500 billion by middle of 25, all of a sudden now MicroStrategy is setting a record for the largest company ever being included in the S&P 500, and we start to see this thing get real nutty real quick, where things can be thrust into the top of the publicly traded leaderboard very fast. So yeah, I don't want to downplay that one. That's the reason I track it every single. I've been tracking it for 205 days in a row, 205 trading days, not 205 days, 205 trading days in a row. I've started tracking MicroStrategy's market cap every single day since it was a $14 billion company. Now here we are at $100 billion. Super exciting. Super exciting. Welcome, Mason, the kiddiest of kid analysts.
Yeah, that was making me blush. Someone DM'd me, said Ben was talking some smack, so I had to jump in.
You had to jump in.
You're over there sitting in your dorm room or whatever, eating Cocoa Puffs. While all this big news is going around. Sailors tweeting out the space.
It's close to my bedtime. Yeah.
Your bedtime. You're the one that's supposed to be up all night, right? That's what the kiddiest of the kiddiest analysts do.
Yeah. Apparently.
My favorite quote that just came up in the chat was Mason's looking like his girlfriend crush finally checked yes on the note.
I saw that one.
That made me laugh. That made me laugh. That was good.
I'm just excited about QQQ. That's
okay, Mason. We got to know. Like, do any of your friends know about this? Well, like, what's the Gen Z?
No.
What's the Gen Z pulse?
Sorry, but no.
I figured.
Are you kidding me? They're playing Fortnite right now. Like, no.
You're the crazy one in your group. You're like hanging out with some old dudes on a live stream.
Yeah, it's hard to explain.
It'll serve you well in 5 to 10 years, believe us.
Oh my God. Have you orange pilled anybody? Any of your friends?
No, like one of my friends started like a DCA, which I was proud of him, but
50 cents.
But that was at 100K. So I think the 100K was that psychological marker for a lot of them. We're like, maybe I should take this seriously. But beyond that one friend doing the DCA, no one's talking about this. No one knows about this. Dan, do you have a similar experience?
Yeah, people started talking about. Well, they like to see my Twitter, and so I think even the people that know us are already kind of like tuned in. So the people who like aren't your friends, like it's not even on the radar. But like kids our age don't invest anyway. It's like different. People aren't thinking about finances. They're thinking about scrounging up beer money. It's different. So I'd say it's the last on the list of priorities. But
the price of beer is going down forever related to Bitcoin.
Maybe we can use that as a selling point.
Strategic beer Bitcoin fund where it's like self-perpetuates and can just buy beer weekly. Okay, I'll mention that.
You guys should start selling this to the freshmen. They all pool capital together at the beginning of the year. They buy Bitcoin. It makes beer cheaper throughout their 4 years in college. It's brilliant.
There you go.
That's basically what I did. Like I was a Bitcoiner before coming into college and have just stayed with it. So yeah, beer's gone down exponentially. It's great.
Was beer your orange pill moment? That was your orange pill moment?
Yeah. I don't know who sold me on that, but someone did.
Well, maybe if you've got if there's fraternities on campus, you go pitch them. Go buy MSTY.
That's
like that.
It's funny. Some kid came out to me. He's in a frat, and he was just saying, "We're going to throw our whole treasury into Dogecoin."
Oh my
God!
Oh my!
Why?
He was joking, but like that's if I said the same thing about Bitcoin, yeah. I mean,
are you sure?
I don't know.
Because oh my god, Dogecoin. Okay.
Oh man, or Haktua
Good
coin.
for them to learn that lesson early, right? Everyone's got to go through that stupid phase where
Ugh.
you try to hit the moonshot, right? And then you eventually figure out there's pretty much one thing that's got some real value behind it, and that's called Bitcoin. Stick to that.
Yeah,
Makes your life far less complicated. You can sleep better at night.
man. I posted right before this. I posted before the QQQ inclusion announcement. I posted some music, and I would really like to see the music industry adopt Bitcoin. I think like DJs in general are generally very like math oriented, math brained, and I think there could be a good a group of people that are musical that adopt a Bitcoin treasury strategy. I think that could be an interesting crossover. Would be excited to see some Bitcoin DJs doing some real shit.
Yeah, my son's he's a senior in college too, and he's a musician. And of course, when your son's a musician, you're like, well, is he gonna live with me forever? Like, and I told him, I was like, look, dude, just do whatever you want with your music and stack sats, and you'll be fine.
That's the best like dad advice I've ever heard.
For real, is he in MicroStrategy too, or just Bitcoin?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We trade every Friday, and with his college money, internship money, he can mostly just afford the mining stocks. But once we had just enough, I'm like, you want to YOLO into some MSTR calls? He's like, I don't know, you tell me. I was like, let's go. So yeah, he's into it.
Honestly, this point's gonna sound really cheesy, but like Bitcoin and MicroStrategy and not Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. I was gonna say maybe the miners, but no. If this does what we think it's going to do, it does open the door for a lot of individuals that have been in the trade long enough, or at that point to be in the trade long enough to actually follow their passions, right? Because if you have passive income in the form of whether you're playing options or whether you have enough of a stash that you've been living off of, and then you're just waiting to accumulate more or for it to accrete more in value, there's a lot less pressure on you with regards to what you have to do for your 9 to 5, right? So one of the things I'm struggling with right now is, do I want to even still keep doing what I'm doing when I'm essentially using the money for capital to do more investing into MicroStrategy and some Bitcoin, but it changes your relationship with money. Like Bitcoin changed my relationship with money, and now I'm changing my entire relationship and conceptualization of time and what I'm spending my time on. And is it even worth it when I do the math to say, okay, fine, I can now invest in X, Y, and Z, but what is it really going to appreciably change in my life? So I think your son is on the right path if he's doing it this early. And in 5 years, I mean, who knows?
Yep.
Adrian, to that point too, it's like when you can sell a 750 covered call for next Friday or whatever given week, and it would blow any sort of other income you could generate on your own out of the water. It's definitely makes you rethink.
So I actually hit that point last month. So in my consulting work, I have 3 projects that I'm working right now, and they all have different deliverables, different deadlines. I'm mentioning it for this reason. So I get paid net 30, right? So at any given point, I'm getting 30 days of pay at 3 different points in the month. And I actually sat down and I looked at what I was getting paid, and then I looked at covered calls, and I was like, oh, fuck. This actually is almost lining up to what I'm making. And that's just with what I have in my Robinhood. If I were able to, if I really want to go psycho and start leveraging my other accounts and do covered calls there, again, I'm at the point where, do I want to stop doing what I'm doing and for lack of a better term, do this full time? But the problem is my dad's 80 years old and he still works. So him having me later in life, he's been working multiple jobs since I can remember. I've been working multiple jobs since I can remember. It's very, very ingrained in my mind to always be grinding. So I don't know what I would do with myself if I just did this. I would probably become psycho with this and be more of a degen than any of you. So I
people on Twitter.
maybe. I just it's a weird position to be in. It's a good position to be in, but it's also a very, very weird position to be in psychologically and emotionally, because I would have thought that I've gotten to this point later in life instead of at the point in life where I'm at right now, where I still have decades in front of me, and I'm trying to figure out, well, what now?
Yeah, one of my
Look,
favorite.
man, we need someone to have a full-time job dispelling quantum computing. So if the people started demanding that.
But
So I know
don't
exactly what you're going to do when you leave that job. You're going to have 24 hours a day to run around the internet shooting that down.
Well, here's the thing.
That's your calling, Adrian.
I tell people all the time, like when they try to give me shit in my DMs, like, oh, you wrote that with ChatGPT or all this other stuff. I'm like, listen, guys, you don't want me dedicating my time to dispelling myths. Because if I did, Kruger, Giovanni, all those motherfuckers will be ducking and covering. Like, I'll have all of the spare time in the world to write and read and disprove what they're saying. So I don't think people want that.
Hey, real quick, we've got Tim. Tim, you there? I've got you on mute. Hold on. Welcome, Tim.
Before Tim jumps in, I got to run, guys. I got to go catch my flight. So
great
it's
to
been
see
fun.
you.
We made it.
We made it. We made it.
Later, guys.
Ben, you are the man.
Tim, are we bullish enough?
No, you are not bullish enough. None of this is financial advice.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we forgot that.
Yeah. Only an hour in.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go back and re-listen up to this point. I'm sure it's been amazing. Congratulations to everyone. I have Freedom Tower in the background right now, and I think that's very fitting. I think this is gonna mean freedom for a lot of people, and I'm gonna try not to get emotional, but yeah, this is huge. So congratulations to everybody.
Yeah, congrats. I mean, seriously. And if you do not follow Tim Kotzman, the Bitcoin Treasuries podcast is epic. It's going to be epic for all of 2025.
And
go follow Tim
by
Kotzman.
not following him? Seriously.
Yeah, go follow Tim Kotzman and the Bitcoin Treasuries podcast. It's lit. It's going to be super cool for all of 2025. We're going to have some really good alpha there. So, yeah, shout out Tim. You're doing great work, man.
Thank you, absolutely, and shout out to Adrian for all of the great work with Eric Semler and just everything you do. When I met Natalie today, I said, Natalie, you have Sailor covered, so we appreciate that, and it's really a team effort. So, I
appreciate that.
Yeah.
So can I
Great
just say, side note, real quick? Why is it everyone is still commenting on the Wednesday episode of the quantum computing? I'm seeing people saying that I got an aneurysm on Wednesday. Adrian finally came out of the quantum matrix. It's like, was it really that big of a deal with what I was saying? Because I couldn't read all the comments, but what the fuck, man? I didn't think people were really going to be this crazy about it.
Dude, if you go back and you watch that episode from Wednesday with the YouTube comments, it is absolutely hilarious. I think I only put up like 4 comments, but I mean, it is gold.
Couldn't keep up.
There's like 5 minutes of just pure gold in the comments, and they're just like rushing in. I think the one I laughed the hardest on was if Adrian were teaching a class, I would drop out immediately.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Oh, it was so fun. Oh,
I wasn't sure if I was gonna have to turn my camera off because I could not keep it together.
Yeah.
I was trying. I stayed straight faced for so long, but then I started reading the comments. And I'm just like, oh my god, these guys are on one right now. And now Kruger's talking about quantum computing, so I'm gonna have to get into it with him again. And it's a whole thing.
It was funny. I started taking notes at the beginning. I was like, I'm so lost.
Yeah, I saw you.
I'm breaking up the article in like to 10 pieces. I'm going to put them on Twitter. I'm going to actually try to explain things to people in a very structured format. I've got draft 1.
I've got my notes here.
So.
2.
Yeah, I saw you taking notes. I'm like, Jeff's like, oh, zeros and ones? Okay. And then you go to write it down. I'm like, what the hell? Are you serious?
Jeff's writing down his favorite comments.
I was like, okay. I'm following. 8 bits is a byte. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. And then I was like, whoa, where are we going with this? Oh man, it's so funny. Yeah. And the commentary is so fun. So please keep throwing the comments out. It is amazing. Oh man,
I think
this is a huge night, though. Seriously, this is huge. That's
going to be the viewers' goal now, is to just see if they can get us all cracking up and just off our game with the comments.
Go ahead, Ryan. Real briefly, 63,000 people watching live, so we've tripled our peak. Go ahead, Ryan.
I get nervous when we talk about these big numbers of people listening to us idiots on the internet. But a couple quick points worth reiterating. The first, what Grain of Salt said, I think is like directly applicable to all of us when he said like the decisions I make financially are what's going to impact my life, not how hard I work anymore. So that's why this is like so serious to get this right. And on that note, you know, the NASDAQ 100 news came out, right? I was like unfazed by that because I was listening to Punter Jeff talk about this in February and March of this year. We were so much younger then, by the way. But I think that,
forever ago.
I think, yeah, but I think the main point there is like the Druckenmiller philosophy. I want to think deeply, very deeply about like a rolling 12 to 18 month future period, so that as things get closer and closer and closer, I get more confident, or the ideas get refined. Like if we think back to that one pager, this is where I actually regret deleting Twitter, that one pager about the reflexive flywheel thesis. Towards the top was, you know, NASDAQ 100 and S&P 500 inclusion. And so I think this is just paying off, Jeff, in terms of like us really thinking about like that near term 12 to 18 to 24 month future. And last point here, this goes back to what I was saying previously about how like everyone and their mother like has a comment about MicroStrategy. One of them is, are investors overpaying? And again, these are the people who only have the mental capacity to think about MicroStrategy as a Bitcoin ETF, and they only have the mental capacity to think about the stock when it's at $500, not when it's at $18 after FTX blew up. And I was like, I think this is our .com bubble. I think this is like the absolute bottom. No one thought about it back then or said, are investors underpaying in that moment?
Yes. Yes.
And now what we have is, you know, we already had this to a certain degree because of the All Country World Index and like S&P 600 and other like market cap weighted indices. But it's like now we have like forced buying at any price. So this whole narrative of like, are investors overpaying? Why don't you ask Capital Group if they're overpaying? Why don't you ask Capital Group, who buys the stock on every ATM round, meaning CG can only own 10% of the stock. So every, you know, dilution round, I'm going to say the bad word, let's say they drop to like, they own 9.6% of MSTR. They immediately buy that other 40 basis points of MicroStrategy and just slam themselves back up to 10%. So it's like, again, people think about like, it's like only like idiot retail analysts out there. It's like, no, there's big money, smart money in the form of Capital Group, and now in the form of like even more passive index flows. And this will be my last thing, if you make me pick like my favorite of the big three, or let's say big four indices, the S&P 500, the Dow, the NASDAQ 100, and the Russell 2000, by far and away, my favorite is the NASDAQ 100, right? Because it's like, it's like 50% Mag 7.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the most exciting of the indices, like for younger people or folks who are just growth oriented. So
yeah,
a lot of things to be excited about, you know?
And to your point, Ryan, here, like thinking about Capital Group and thinking about all of the people that are buying the stock, right? So Saylor has raised $15.6 billion in the last 45 days. Okay. This is not retail. This is not retail. I repeat, this is not retail. Michael Saylor has raised $100 million 156 times in the last 40 days. Like if you don't understand how crazy that is, like you don't deserve to own the stock. Like this is insane amount of capital raise in such a small period, right? Like even if you have an insanely good idea and an insanely good company, raising $100 million can take a year. Like
longer.
It could take 24 months. Like it's just incredibly hard to raise $100 million. And the fact that they did it 156 times in the last 40 days is insane. That should be like sounding the alarms from a positive side of like that the market wants this stuff. So back to your point, Ryan, it's like, we're seeing all these articles come out, which is really just FUD. I'm sure that these actively managed index funds can, pay somebody $5,000 to write an article about why MicroStrategy is overvalued. Meanwhile, on the back end, they're buying the shit out of it, recognizing that they know it's going to get included in the QQQ, and they know what the S&P 500 is going to do over the next year. And that's the market, right? Like that's the market that we live in, is that people can be bought out to put these articles out. And the people that actually do the work and understand what's going on behind the scenes, that understand the accounting nuances, which is a very small proportion of the entire population. Like there was a guy on Twitter that had a CFA that posted that MicroStrategy is a Ponzi scheme because they have negative earnings. It's like, didn't do a lick of research, didn't understand why they had negative earnings, didn't understand there was an accounting nuance. Like if you start to uncover what's going on here, this is the biggest story in all of finance ever. Not just today, not just the last decade. This is the biggest story in all of finance ever. This is bigger than Amazon in 2000. This is bigger than Microsoft in 1985. Like this is bigger than anything that's ever existed before, because nobody has ever purchased or holds the strongest money on earth or in the universe, for that matter. So this is so big. This is incredibly big. And people, again, I'm going to say it again. Ryan, you brought it up again. This is going to be the most hated rally of all time, because people are not going to understand Bitcoin. They don't understand how computers work. They don't understand how the internet works. The total exahash right now of Bitcoin is like 818 exahash. To put that in perspective, that's like, what is it? It's like 818 quintillion hashes per second. The computing power that it takes to do 818 quintillion hashes per second is mind-boggling. 99.9% of the traditional finance world doesn't understand how a computer works. They don't understand what an exahash is. They don't understand the scale here, and the fact that like you could redivert every single iPhone, every single computer in the entire world, and you're not going to, if you had a coordinated attack of every single computer in the entire world and try to attack the Bitcoin network, you wouldn't break over 50% of the computer network. And they don't.
Computer though, quantum computer. That's the one.
Yeah,
that's the one that's really gonna
right.
do it though.
So it's just these people don't understand the math. Like at the end of the day, it all comes down to math. It's like scale. Like put this stuff into scale, run the math, do the numbers, and yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. We're in unprecedented times. I think MicroStrategy is going to the top of the publicly traded leaderboard. It's going to happen faster than many people think, and it's an exciting time to be an investor. Yeah. Period.
But the next FUD is definitely going to be like, okay, it got in, but now it's going to be removed, because it's already in the CoinDesk article I shared.
Oh, that it's gonna be removed.
Yeah, it's going to be reclassified because of ICB and whatnot. Again, as we just discussed, that wouldn't make any sense whatsoever to remove a technology company from using technology on their balance sheet to bolster their balance sheet. I think people really need to just get over their disbelief and their own personal issues with it and just accept we're in there. We're going into S&P 500 as well. Accept it. It's fine.
Well, like again, like these people don't understand the design of the financial market, right? Like all of this shit comes down to the design of the financial market. Even if they're thrown out of QQQ, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter at all, because they're already included in the Russell. They're already included in the total stock market index. Vanguard has a fund. It's called the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index. It's the 4th largest index ETF in the world. Guess who's in it? MicroStrategy, because it includes every single company in the entire market. And guess what? If the Bitcoin on the balance sheet goes up forever, Guess what? Guess whose proportion in that index goes up forever? MicroStrategies. Period. So it doesn't matter. Like, this game theory is this is checkmate. Like, it's funny. Sailors played checkmate back in 2023, like in July of 2023. I remember I was like, oh my God, so this is checkmate. Like, this, it doesn't matter anymore if they get included in any of these indices. Like, it's just jet fuel, which is why it's so fun to follow, because it's really just jet fuel. If this wouldn't have happened, it would still be fine. We got to where we are today without it. And if the price of Bitcoin just keeps going up behind the scenes, I mean, this game goes up in perpetuity. It's crazy. Man, it's a lot. Anybody else got something going? I got a little whiskey, a little Friday night. How by myself?
I'm boring. All I got is a Coke for the moment.
A Coke. He's like, wow, gonna make it fun night, fun Friday night.
It was impromptu, man.
It was. Well, thank you everybody for joining. This has been a ton of fun. We got 69,000 followers or viewers right now.
Too easy of a joke. Too easy of a joke right there. But okay.
69. We've got 69,000, which is crazy. Thank you for everybody for coming to watch a impromptu True North. Please join us on Wednesdays. We've been doing this for what, like 10 weeks now? 9 weeks now?
Something like that?
Yeah.
I think we have other people in True North that want to jump on based on the chat from what I'm seeing.
Is it really? Hold on.
Yeah.
What? Oh, no.
No, in our chat.
Oh, in our chat. Who's trying to jump on?
I think I saw was it Dave? Was it Colleen?
Was it Dave or Colleen?
Yeah.
They just got to click the link.
I think Colleen was on the fence.
Oh, okay.
That's all right. That's all right. We got some people have hopped on and purchased some merch. I think we've generated quite a bit of merch sales over the last 3 days. So thank you everybody that's bought merch. I need to go on and buy some merch myself. For those that are new here, we do have a merch site. It's on the HODL shop. Maybe we'll share the link on the MSTR True North link after this. And within the HODL shop, it's MSTR True North. All of our merch, any profit that comes from MSTR True North is going back into the community. This is a very big, important point that we want to make very clear. Like, this is not to enrich our lives. This is going to go back into the community. How we do it, we're still figuring it out, but it's likely to either sponsor people going to MicroStrategy World in 2025 or future development of the MicroStrategy and the Bitcoin ecosystem. So stay tuned on that. Those funds are coming in and we will be posting more information. So if you want to buy, if you're interested in MicroStrategy True North merch, please hop on the HODL shop and check it out. It's very basic. We just have like t-shirts and sweatshirts and a mug and stuff. So I had a friend send me a text and he bought some things. So anyway, we have Colleen, the Bitcoin gal, coming on for her first True North episode. Woo! Let's go. True North. All right. So,
hey guys,
welcome, Colleen. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you guys?
Are you excited? Are you excited about the news?
I'm thrilled. I'm also super nervous. I've never been on a live stream with like 10 people before.
Nobody's watching.
Nobody's
small,
watching.
Just a few people.
Yeah. Hey, at least you're not doing it solo. I tell you, doing it solo is pretty hard. Just getting on and just talking about your thoughts.
For sure.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So when you found out about the news, what'd you do? Did you like run around and dance in your house? Like, what was the celebratory? We made it.
I was driving my son home from track practice actually, and he's telling me a story about practice, and I'm like, hang on a minute. I'm getting like alerts on my phone. Something important I have to tell you, and he doesn't care. He wants to tell me about track. So yeah.
Is he the one that didn't want to wear the merch?
He is the one that doesn't want to wear the merch. Yeah. He gave me a big eye roll.
Said, in your face, right? Like, you're like, we got it.
Right. I'm like, I'm gonna wear the shirt every day around him.
Oh man, that's fun.
That's right.
That's fun. So as an FYI to everybody, Colleen has helped us. She's our senior project manager, and she's the one that is responsible for us having a merch website. So without her, we would not have a merch website. So like many claps to Colleen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy to bring a little feminine energy to your group.
Yes,
here.
the first woman on MSTR True North. Yes, I love it. I love it. Which is a great perspective, and I'm sure we'll break into different perspectives in the future. So. Love having you here. Thank you for hopping on.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Well, I mean, what else do we want to talk about? Anybody else got anything they want to chat about? Mason, I think Mason, we're gonna interview some people here shortly, which is really fun. Alan, the 82-year-old Bitcoin holder and MicroStrategy holder, has inspired us to do a little bit of a Bitcoin podcast with some younger people and some older people, and we see if we can bridge the gap and understand, how some of these people think. So, Nathan, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about it. So Alan, as you said, he's 82 years old. I'm 22, 60-year age difference, right? That's insane. And we're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about MicroStrategy, and yeah, I think the space is incredible because it's so diverse age-wise, and also globally it's so diverse. I have people from Scotland, from Taiwan DMing me. It's crazy, like just the power of the internet and how far the Bitcoin and MicroStrategy message has gone. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation, and yeah, I think it's going to be on Tim's show. So Tim's going to host it, and I think it'll be really fun.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? I think I've said that if you're over 55 and you own Bitcoin, you're not a boomer anymore. Like, you're a Bitcoiner, and Bitcoiners transcend time and space, right? Like, if you were thinking like long term and understand the power of this technology, like, you're unique, and we want to talk to those types of people. And I think this could be an incredibly interesting series, Mason, where we talk to some folks that have really interesting backgrounds, that have seen many different financial circumstances in their lives and have a unique perspective on the financial world, but are still interested in Bitcoin, right? Like, they've seen inflation in the 70s and 80s, right? They've been through the .com bubble. They've seen the great, the global financial crisis in 2008, 2009. And they're still buying Bitcoin. That's somebody that's really interesting to talk to, and they've got really unique perspectives on the world and where the world might go, having that history. So I think it could be a really good way to capture some of those thoughts forever, right? If you put it on video and we capture it forever, I think that could be unique to look back on 5, 10, 15 years from now, and see where we are and how things go. So yeah, I mean, amazing.
What about
stuff.
an MSTR country tracker? Like, people who are into MSTR from all over the world. That would be kind of cool.
That
There's
would
a lot
be
of people in Europe. There's a lot of Australia. There's a lot of Canada. I can tell you
India
that.
too. If you go look on the the Google searches and you just type in MSTR, I think India is #1 for Google search for MicroStrategy, which is pretty interesting as well. Transcending global borders too, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally crazy. That's a great idea.
And it would be weird to see if there's, I wonder if India, if there would be, if they're like the top of the world. I think it was Tesla that was really strong in Korea for some reason. They just had like a really strong presence. So it'd be kind of cool to see if there's like a bunch of MSTR presence in certain places over others.
I mean, it would make sense. I would assume America should be #1, but you're saying that India is the #1 searcher, which is kind of interesting. But it just goes to show you never know who's going to be investing and how far this thing's going to reach. What my dream is, though, not to derail the conversation, is I want to get some actual bears in debating us and talking about this thing on live stream. I want to get Kruger in here. He says he's not
Kruger's a bull now. Kruger's a bull. He's
I don't buy it. He's just
so
following his
funny.
friend.
Oh my God, Ryan! If you were still on Twitter, you'd be ripping him a new one for weeks on end. Holy shit!
He's a coward. He's an intellectual fraud who will just talk about the topic of the day, and he wants nothing to do with me in a one-on-one live stream. Wants no part of it. I've asked him several times, and it's crickets.
Now, are the bears going to go extinct, or you think the hotter this gets, they're just going to come out of the woodwork?
Oh, they're gonna come out of the woods.
Yeah, it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get way worse.
Like when this thing's trading at $500 billion market cap, like the news articles are gonna be hilarious. They're gonna be hilarious, and it's just be like, well, I've already made it this far. Like, whoa, you made me sell. Like, no, it's not gonna happen. It's like I've held this through. The Bitcoin ETFs coming out and that FUD where everything dropped, right? Like, so from January to February to March, when the price of Bitcoin dropped and MicroStrategy dropped even more, like February was kind of like, oh my God, is this trade dead? And I just kept thinking to myself, and at one point it was trading below its net asset value. Like the software company was free. And at that point it's like, oh my God, like, are people really selling this thing right now? Like, is nobody buying this? Like, what is going on? And just sitting through that conviction, that was probably the hardest part. Yeah, maybe September in 23 too, but
what I'm waiting for is a new short and distort report. I know one of those is probably coming out at some point here. We can almost like count on it. And like just with like NVIDIA and the Mag 7 companies, and now anyone in the chat, I'm not comparing MicroStrategy to Mag 7 right now. What I'm saying is success breeds contempt. And if the slightest bit of news, people are just going to run with it. And with MicroStrategy, if this thing gets to the mania that we think is going to get to, since it's a new kid on the block, relatively, in terms of, explosive growth and really breaking up into the upper echelons of some of the more well-known companies, I can just see the short and distort reports coming out. There's going to be way more FUD. There's going to be more idiots on CNBC, MSNBC, all these other stations, talking out of their ass. You're probably going to have the guys on the All In podcast. It's going to be one thing after another.
Just FYI, we have 75,000 people watching this right now.
Oh, it went up.
Nice. All right, go ahead, Ryan. What are you showing us here? This is MicroStrategy search interest globally. So the map, what's green? What's green with blue? What are we looking at?
Yeah, let's because we were talking about it. I was really intrigued by the India thing. So this is past 5 years worldwide, and all of to me this is like the top 5 things you would search. So yeah, worldwide past 5 years. Unsurprisingly, the slope of the curve looks just like the stock price, unsurprisingly. And then I was scrolling through the different things you can search for. So we start with the first one: Iraq, Algeria, the Philippines. You go to the next one: Spain, Italy, Germany. This is like Europe based. You go here, more Europe, some Japan, Korea. Go to the next one: Japan, Germany, France, Switzerland. Not surprising.
Wow, it's crazy. None of these are the U.S.
I know, which is a good sign to see, because most of the people who like talk about this actively on Twitter are, of course, like American based.
Yeah. Wow.
China's big.
And all of the people that don't believe in it are probably American based.
Right.
Like, which is hilarious. Like everybody hating on MicroStrategy. I feel like we don't see many Europeans hating or Japanese people hating on MicroStrategy, right? Or like people from countries where their currency has been debased, like they aren't hating on MicroStrategy. But the Americans, where they exist in the traditional financial ecosystem, they're hating on MicroStrategy, which is crazy.
Dude, yeah,
just go buy a forest.
Just go buy a forest in China. But China
stack forest, bro.
Yeah, that's such an easy transaction to make too. You get great yield on that.
Hard assets.
China's big, man. Right before I stopped sharing, it's like, China is like one of the dominant players in like 3 or 4 out of the 5 searches. That's interesting.
Huh. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Good to know.
The network is huge. That's
the
what
network.
you're saying.
The network is enormous. Absolutely massive. Absolutely freaking massive. I mean, Colleen, for you, like, do you talk to people about MicroStrategy? I mean, I know you're like in a school network. Does Bitcoin come up? Like, what's your pulse on that?
Well, I got my parents to get some MicroStrategy into their retirement, so they're
before
probably
Bitcoin.
On watching.
Before Bitcoin.
No, my parents were Bitcoiners before me.
Okay.
So I come from a really cool family, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a family full of Bitcoiners. So yeah, they were into Bitcoin, and then I found Bitcoin because of family members, and then I found MicroStrategy, and I talk about it with them nonstop. So then they were like, "Huh, maybe we should hold some of this." So I talk about it with family members, and I talk about it with some of my friends. But as you mentioned, I work in education, and it is not talked about there. Like, I have tried to get the school to talk about or to teach Bitcoin there, and it's not happening.
High school?
Yeah.
High school?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
it'd be oh man.
Those ones that need it the most.
Yeah.
I know, right?
That would be
Yeah.
so interesting to teach with like a computer science class, or like digital money, or in a economics class or something like that. I mean, that would be incredible. That would be really cool.
I don't know if people remember a post that I did quite some time back about a story of someone from our board of directors, because it's a private high school. So we have a board of directors, and one of the members from the board used to teach a class at the school. And one of his students back in 2014 did this very compelling project on Bitcoin, where this teacher who's now on the board just loaded up on Bitcoin after this student did this presentation in like 2014. So it's like that alone. It's like they've had a student that like came through and like taught the teacher and taught the class about Bitcoin a decade ago. And now when I talk to them, I'm like, can we teach this like in the finance class, or can we have like a seminar like outside of school hours? And it's just turned down.
Wow, that's crazy. So very similar story. My college was the first college to accept Bitcoin donations.
Oh, nice.
Since then, nothing.
Huh.
So like they were accepting Bitcoin donations in 2014, and I mean my senior year, it was crazy. I had an econ thesis class, and 3 of the 6 people in my thesis class talked about, or they did their thesis on Bitcoin. And I was like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. I was just a young, dumb, 21-year-old. And I wish I would have paid a little bit more attention, which is just crazy. But since then, like, they're not accepting Bitcoin for donations anymore. They were the first college to do it. And I think they accepted some donations. I think they sold it like pretty recently after that. So you have to have like a very progressive group of people that are, at the helm. It's really interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. Crazy. I mean, Dan, is there any buzz with you, like at all? Because you're in a master's. Are you a master's right now?
Yeah, I'm in graduate school. There's just like 3 kids. There's like 7 kids in my classes, and they just do a lot of coding. There's not a lot of buzz. Yeah, they're not worried about Bitcoin. But even like with my undergraduate friends who work investment, literally every single person works investment banking. Like if I was dropped into this environment, I wouldn't know there was other jobs. But they're all kind of like, like we can't trade, but I'm glad we bought Bitcoin when you told us to. So I think people are definitely talking about it.
Interesting.
But everyone's looking for an exit. That's the other thing. Like I get a lot of people.
Yes.
Talk to me. They'll be like, "This
when
thing's
do I
way
sell,
up.
bro?"
Yeah, they're like, "This thing's way up when I'm scared." I'm like, guys.
Relax.
Volatility is vitality. You just shove it down their throat.
But it's like the second they start making any money, it's like they're ready to take it off the table, right?
Yeah.
If we've learned anything, that's not the way to do it. So
Yeah.
I think, there's a lot of fear. People are just super fearful of the price going higher.
Yeah, people don't really understand that this is a forever hold.
And, they don't. They don't at all.
They can't conceptualize. Like, in my opinion, I think the easiest way explaining this is like, this is collateral, right? This is something that you can buy and use as collateral for any future financial transaction. Like, you can borrow against it. Like, this concept of collateral, I wasn't taught about collateral ever in my like education system, and it took me working in reinsurance to understand like what collateral is. So maybe getting that point across, especially with some educated people, that might be valuable. But go ahead, Ryan. You had some thoughts.
Ryan, can I just add one more thing? Sorry. And I don't think people understand, period, the idea of long-term hold. That was the other thing I have to say. Like, people don't understand long-term investing, period, let alone with something that goes up and down very quickly. To you,
just tell them, like, okay, do you have the relative that's told you about they should have bought Apple in 1995? Everybody has that uncle or that like relative, that cousin, like second uncle, like somebody in your life has told you a story. I guarantee it. Almost everybody everywhere. I know everybody has a story where somebody's like, oh, I should have bought Apple in 1992 for 36 cents. It's like, no shit. Guess what? Like, you have to think about these things, about holding something for 20 or 30 years in order for that to come to fruition. So how in the fuck are you going to do that if you don't hold something for 20 or 30 years, or you have the foresight of like what the future may look like? And like, that's the way I look at this, is like, I don't want to be that grandpa that's telling my grandkids I had the opportunity to buy MicroStrategy at a $100 billion market cap, and I sold it at $200 billion market cap when it's trading at a $20 trillion market cap, right? Like, it's like, you know, you got to think about
buy,
it.
borrow, die. People don't know about that. I've tried to explain buy, borrow, die to so many different people, and they just don't grasp it. So some people you can help. Some people are going to be eating, beans out of a can in 20 years. There's nothing you can do about it.
What is it? What is it? Buy, blow.
Buy, borrow, die.
Buy, borrow, die. Yeah. Buy, borrow,
so
die.
Look, you can sell your stock and pay capital gains tax.
Or you can borrow.
One, or two, you can take out a portfolio loan. Not financial advice. You can take out a portfolio loan at a 7% interest rate and use the gains from your portfolio to pay off the loan. So instead of having a 15 or 20% capital gains tax rate, you have a 7% tax rate, effective tax rate.
I tried to explain
from the company that provided you that loan. So this is like collateral, right? Like, this is you using your collateral to take out a loan. That way you don't have to sell your position. You are leveraging your position for income.
Well, like, I've tried to explain that with even with margin or with borrowing against your Bitcoin. That's like in one ear, out the other, because everyone's just worried about like booking the gains. But you can ride those gains up and down if you're actually leveraging your assets and borrowing against it to do whatever it is you need to do. And margin to me isn't scary, and borrowing against my assets isn't scary, because I've been thinking buy, borrow, die for like the last 10, 15 years. But again, some people aren't going to do the research and not going to do the homework. So
yeah. Hold on real quick, Ryan. Mason's got to jump. Mace.
Yeah, I got to go.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Any final thoughts you want to share?
Just, I'm excited about QQQ. I think the rest of the year is going to be crazy, and I'm just excited to keep my eye on it and keep on talking about it with you guys.
Everybody go follow Mason. He might be the wisest of all of us, and he's only 22. So if you don't follow Mason, just do it. And there's 80,000 people here now, which is
all 80,000. All
80,000 people.
Right
go
here.
Follow Mason. Yes, go follow Mason.
Follow the rest of us too. After you follow Mason.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Mason is going to make changes here in the next decade, 2 decades. Yeah. All right, Mason. Have a good night. See ya
later.
Go ahead, Ryan. Rip it.
Yes, I think one of the reasons that geez, I'm getting sick again. I think one of the reasons that people are so quick to want to sell is because people love certainty. They hate uncertainty. And there's that old adage out there of like buy low, sell high, and all that stuff. But let's keep it simple. I'm a disciple of Charlie Munger, God rest his soul. One of his sayings was, we have a passion for keeping things simple. So let's use the extreme examples. Bezos, Musk, Gates, Steve Ballmer, these folks, they did not get rich by selling assets.
Right.
They got rich because the asset that they owned a lot of, they held on to most, if not all of it. Also, you can throw in that bucket Michael Saylor. Maybe you've heard of him. Never sold a share from his core equity position. And that was a monster FUD thing back in March when he was just exercising the option. But like these people who buy yachts and planes and, you know, $50 million mansions, they don't get there by selling assets. They get there by keeping the assets, not selling them and creating a taxable event, and then just borrowing money to make all of these large purchases. So I think that's kind of the like there's this one famous, like it's like 1 or 2, maybe 4 minutes long video out there where that guy is like kind of weird, but he's funny. And he's like, everything's risky. You have you bring children into this world, that's risky, you know? And it's like, I think that's what kind of just sets people apart, is that they crave certainty so much that they want to lock in gains and then forget about it, or maybe they think they have another better idea coming. But this whole, you know, this whole idea of trading is like a really bad one. I've said this a few times. I only know one person on planet Earth, and I've met a lot of people. I only know one of them who's good at trading, and that's Josh Mandel.
Josh Mandel.
Well, he's like a mutant, though. You can't really count him. He's like one of the fucking Avengers of trading or something.
Josh is a quantum computer.
Yeah, like his brain is a little. You can't really use him as an example. You know, he's an outlier there.
Well, the cool thing about being here at this moment is, like, you know, like Munger and Buffett are these just some of the most famous investors of all time, but they never understood Bitcoin. So if you're here right now and you do, you're already ahead of the best investors that have ever lived.
But they're not that good.
So you can't be
old, and they got in early.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, is like, you're still early if you get it before these guys get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't be like, oh, I missed it. Like, no, you're right on time. You're ahead of people that you know should be able to get the information, but you know, just can't get with the new information.
Think about Berkshire Hathaway's performance. Most of it is because they bought like a 6% position in Apple, and they just held it. They didn't do anything. It's like, cool, dude, sick move. Like, you bought the #1 stock and you just held it.
But wasn't one of them that convinced Bill Gates to diversify out of his Microsoft position?
Yeah,
that was if he had kept it, it'll be worth $1.2 trillion. Look, if I was Bill Gates, I'll go into Munger's grave and pull that motherfucker out if he got me out of a $1.2 trillion. No.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Elon Musk, man, is running away. I think he's like 2 times richer than Bezos now, maybe more.
That's going to ebb and flow.
Yeah. I mean, shit, they've got Bitcoin on their balance sheet, though. Think about it. They got 10,000 Bitcoin in their balance sheet. I mean, it's okay. They're ranked like 7th or something like that.
The thing is, though, I still say Musk is only holding on just, I don't know.
Well, he's not going to sell it. He doesn't need to.
No, he doesn't need to. But if he had weaponized it, I mean, Tesla will be worth like twice as much by now.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see if they accept Bitcoin for payment. I don't want this to be a Tesla. Ryan, we know how you feel about Tesla, but I would be interested to see if at some point in the future they accept Bitcoin for payment again.
Well, he said if it was going to be if mining emissions and mining was 50% renewables. It has been for a while.
Which is so funny because now he's like anti-renewables. He's like anti-recycling. He's like, you know, Department of Government Efficiency. He's totally like, he's all over the place.
He's the president.
The whole thing with that, and again, we're not going to make this a Tesla conversation or environment conversation and whatnot. I love electric cars, and people that drive electric cars, I understand why they do, and I will probably own one at some point, but it's not an environmental ad.
Oh, no.
You know what goes into lithium mining?
Lithium.
Like, it's so his whole stance of we'll accept Bitcoin again when mining is 50% renewables just bothered me, because it's like, dude, lithium. Your entire business is driven off of lithium. and it's one of the most destructive things in the environment that's humanly possible. So I don't understand it.
Well, it just kind of depends on where your energy and stuff comes from too. It's like all these electric cars, like most of them are probably coming from coal-fired power plants.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well.
Now, I would totally build a house that's fully off the grid, solar, having electric cars if I could, absolutely. Yeah. But it's like, again, most people can't do that. So,
yeah, the self-driving sick though.
It is.
It is.
It is. It absolutely.
They have to get a little bit of extra credit because Berkshire Hathaway is not going to adopt Bitcoin until it's boring, right? In 50 or 75 years,
yeah, like
they'll be like, oh, okay, it's going up at a few percent here, or whatever the volatility goes down to. Now it'll be like, oh, okay, now it's a Berkshire thing.
Okay, so
they're just going to miss out on. Yeah, go ahead.
Berkshire capitalized on insurance.
Yeah,
okay, and reinsurance in like the 70s, 80s, 90s. Okay, when all this shit was taking off, they established Geico. They established National Union Fire Indemnity Company. So they took advantage of the float and the discrepancy of capital with the float with insurance companies. And that's how they've made most of their money, is like you're getting premiums today for liabilities that you pay out in the future. And they were able to invest that float faster than anybody else with companies that were getting premiums in the door faster than anybody else. So that was like a product of the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. And that trade's over. Right? Like go look at any insurance company right now. They're all trading at like 1.5 price to book because they're not sexy business models. Like I don't want to own an insurance company at all because it's just not sexy. Like you're subject to so much regulation. You can only get so much pricing in the door. Reinsurance costs are going through the roof. Catastrophe pricing is ridiculous. It's impossible to price. Yeah, it's just that trade is over. And I think the days of, Berkshire being this household name are probably pretty limited. I mean, Broadcom, look at Broadcom today. Broadcom flipped Berkshire today. Broadcom, for those that don't know, Broadcom went up 20% today. It went from an $800 billion company to now another $1 trillion company because of their semiconductor. Some semiconductor news came out and their interest in AI. And have now flipped Berkshire Hathaway. We're going to see this happen a dozen times over the next 4 years. We're going to see all these companies that are investing in AI and Bitcoin, digital technology, and I think Berkshire is going to be a name of the past. So that all the people waiting to go to the Berkshire days, good luck.
Yeah, I just looked it up because I wanted to make sure I gave the right credit. But Bitcoin Not Crypto covered it, and he basically said that Berkshire basically, barely beating the S&P 500. That was good enough for a lot of investors. But now Bitcoin is the standard.
It's the hurdle rate.
Yeah. Before it was like, can you beat the S&P? And now it's, can you beat Bitcoin? And barely beating the S&P is not going to cut it.
Well, the reason why it's good enough for Berkshire is because look at their client base. They're not dealing with retail investors, right? They're dealing with massive portfolios. So if you're getting like 3 to 5% on $250 million, I mean, it's an entirely different kind of thing.
Yeah, right? They're probably like the bond traders. They don't want the they don't want all the risk. They'll just take a portion of the profits and offload the risk to MicroStrategy.
But I really wish people right now would stop being like asleep and being like non-playable characters. Basically, we've got 3 huge opportunities here. We've got Bitcoin. Right. We've got AI. And I think pretty soon we're probably going to have robotics as the next big opportunity for investment and for market cap growth and for companies growing and whatnot. Like the generations that are alive right now have so many paradigm shifts that they can take advantage of. But so many people I talk to are like asleep at the wheel. I've been trying to explain Bitcoin. I've been trying to explain MicroStrategy. I've been trying to explain AI. I'm going to start trying to explain robotics. I don't think like us collectively can do more than we're doing right now. And we're probably going to catch 1 out of 100, maybe 1 out of 1,000 people, but that's going to be good enough in aggregate. The vast majority of the public is just going to miss this thing. And they're going to be looking for the Berkshires. They're going to be looking for the, safe plays, thinking they're going to get ahead, but they're just not. They're barely going to beat inflation.
Yeah, and I think Saylor says it really well. It's like the S&P 500 returns, that is the cost of capital, right? Like that is the cost of capital, not, whatever the Fed says the cost of capital is, because most of the value in the market is sitting in these types of trades. So in order to get ahead or gain, you have to be beating the S&P 500, and that has to be your hurdle rate. And now moving forward, Soleil, to what you said, I mean, the hurdle rate has changed. It's now Bitcoin. For advanced society that understands computers, that understands math, that is now the hurdle rate. And the market is going to change because they understand that now Bitcoin is the hurdle rate. So if 29 or let's just say 30% CAGR is the hurdle rate, all of a sudden your business model doesn't make any sense for all of these other companies in the entire market. And you start to look at all of these other publicly traded equities that are trading at just egregious multiples. Like the top 10 publicly traded equities are at 30 price to PE ratio, 20, 50, 60 price to book value. They're all trading based on a future promise. They're not trading on the actual underlying asset.
Markets are forward looking.
Yeah. And there's going to be a paradigm shift where people realize that, and it's going to take some time. And I think we're still early, but ETFs are here, so it's becoming less and less early. I think we're still early, but it's becoming less and less early. FASB. Actually, hold on. Somebody brought this up. Jeff, can you discuss FASB tax implications for unrealized gains? I just want to discuss FASB, period, because I think this is something that maybe
I also could speak to that.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, they won't be taxed. The unrealized gains aren't taxed, but they do come through as investment income on net income. And so I'm not a CPA, so I don't know exactly what that means. But as long as they're unrealized, I know someone commented it in some post I did. They're unrealized, they won't be taxed. But the what do they call them? The future tax deferred liability assets they might not have as big tax deferred assets moving forward, since all of these unrealized gains will be a part of their net income. Because right now their tax deferred assets are quite significant because of impairment losses.
Yep. So there's so many nuances here, and none of us are CPAs. So like none of this is financial advice, and none of this is accounting advice or investment advice. So for those that are unaware of the accounting situation, the accounting rules for Bitcoin for publicly traded companies are dated. So if you look back at MicroStrategy's historical earnings since they adopted a Bitcoin treasury strategy, most of their earnings are negative. And the reason for this is because the Bitcoin held on balance sheet is treated as an intangible, long-lived asset. So that means that during the quarter, MicroStrategy has to mark down the value of the entirety of their Bitcoin holdings to the lowest point during that quarter. So even if the value climbs at any point during the quarter, they have to mark it down to the lowest point during the quarter. So their MicroStrategy is carrying significant impairment losses from the last 4 years of holding Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is volatile, right? So, and at any point during the quarter, the price of MicroStrategy was probably down. Moving forward to 2025 and into the future, FASB fair value accounting. So this is a new accounting standard for digital assets, where digital assets are marked to fair value at the end of the reporting period. So at the end of Q1 2025, the value gain between January 1st and the end of Q1 2025, March 31st, that gain will be added to net income for the company. So, for example, with MicroStrategy holding, let's just say 400,000 Bitcoin, if the price of MicroStrategy goes up 5,000, or if the price of Bitcoin goes up $5,000, that's what is that? $2 billion gain, $2 billion gain that flows through to net income for the company. Is it 20 billion? Am I off by a factor of 10? It's either 2 billion or 20 billion. Anyway, ridiculous number. It's a ridiculous number that flows through to the bottom line for MicroStrategy. One of the questions that comes up is this corporate alternative minimum tax, CAMT, which is a little bit unclear. So if you're a corporation and you have greater than $1 billion of net income, you're required to pay this corporate alternative minimum tax, which is a tax on any net income greater than $1 billion. So far, the guidance on unrealized gain is very murky. For example, insurance companies that are carrying unrealized gain are not subject to this corporate alternative minimum tax. We think there is some precedent for other companies to not be subject to this corporate alternative minimum tax. Again, we're getting into a really, really tricky situation where if you start taxing unrealized gains, all of a sudden it doesn't make sense to hold any assets, and it's really bad for the entire economy. So I don't think there's precedent to do this or to require MicroStrategy to pay tax on unrealized gains at some point in the future. So looks like we got Grain of Salt. Let's bring him on. There he is.
Side note, I'm getting DMs saying that I can't join the live stream because there's too many people watching.
Wow, I've got 86,000 people on Twitter or on Restream right now. 86,000. Holy shit. What's up, Grain?
Hey guys, I didn't realize this was going on. I was a little bit busy, and
we made it. We made it. QQQ.
Congratulations. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Cheers, Grain. We made it.
All right, guys, I got to drop.
All right, Adrian. Good to see you.
Adrian.
Later.
No worries, folks. This has been going on for what? Almost an hour and a half already?
Yeah, hour 50.
Hour and 50. So I don't know what else I could say, but congratulations. I think this is awesome. I can still tell you that I still come across people that are in the industry that have never heard of MSTR. I continue talking to people, and they're like, we don't even know what you're talking about. And then you say triple Q inclusion, and they're just like, you can just see, when you see the look on their face, they're baffled. They're like, what? And I'm like, the index, and then there's ETFs that buy based upon the index. And they're like, oh, yeah, I know about that. And they just don't, you could just see the bewilderment in their eyes. It's ridiculous. And these are people that have 10, 15, 20 years in the industry. I don't know what to say to them. I really don't. But, I mean, this is a watershed event. And what I will say is I'll quote Michael Saylor. January 11th of 2024, I didn't say this. He said this. This will start a gold rush. That'll go to, I don't remember the year he said, 2035, 2039, until there's very few Bitcoins left to mine. And because it legitimized Bitcoin with the ETFs. But as we all know, the benefit is that you can't put a commodity ETF into the indexes. But MSTR as an operating company could. So for everybody that said, oh, this is not going to happen or whatever, they can, I guess they're proven wrong. So I think congratulations. You guys had the conviction. I want to thank Ryan. I want to thank Jeff. Was Ben on the call?
Ben was. Yeah, he got on a flight. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Look, I want to thank you guys because I ran across you guys. I realized immediately your brilliance. I'm a huge fanboy. I was like, wow, these guys get what's going on. And I got to meet them. And so with that, I have nothing else to say.
Grain, I think you called me. I think you called me when I had like 1,000 followers on Twitter, and you're like, "Hey, I've got this group of people that talks about Bitcoin, and you need to have 50% or greater of your net worth in a single asset to be in this group." And so congratulations to you as well. I mean, this is an exciting time to be in this trade. Thank you for continuing to be a part of the community. This has been a ton of fun. And to anybody that's talked shit about Grain is more savage than any of you guys know. So fuck you.
The one reason why I didn't see this is because that other group we had a call that started at 5 o'clock, and we were hitting the refresh button on Twitter, on the NASDAQ website. 4 of us simultaneously were hitting different sites. And then it was Eric Balkunis that showed the Bloomberg terminal information, or James Seifert. And we're like, they posted it. Can't you guys find it? And everybody's hitting the refresh button. We're like, nah, we can't find it. And I'm like, really, guys? So
Rub some salt in the wound.
Rub some salt in the wound.
go get some chocolate. I'm actually going to eat some Thai food in a little bit, but I just wanted to call in. Bitcoin Gal, how you doing?
First
I'm
stream.
good. How are you? My first debut here. I'm doing great. I've got champagne to toast you here.
What a call to join for your first call. Congratulations.
I know. You know me, Green. I get fear of missing out when everyone gets together. I'm like, all right, I'm there.
Yeah, last week she was like 15,000 viewers.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we capped at 15,000 viewers. We're at 86,000 now. Great. Yeah, okay. Wow.
So, folks, this is awesome. I'm reading the comments as they come in, folks. By the way, I'll tell you, doing a restream on your phone is much better than doing it on a computer. I don't,
there you go.
because you can see the scrolling much better. So this is awesome. I appreciate all this. Folks, this is just getting started. Wait till Monday, Tuesday next week. The week after will be thinly traded, so we will see lots of volatility. That's all to be expected. And then you've got all the catalysts, the MSTR Moon site. Go to that site for the catalysts of all the tracking. January 17, 2025, options expiration, FASB. We've got also SAB 121. People discount that, right? That's very, very important for the stable coins to continue to legitimize after the presidential election. And this is going to continue with these catalysts that keep on happening every 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and it will just continue. And I don't know what else I could say. I mean, it's like vindication for everything that we've said. All the naysayers, I'll be nicer. They could pound sand, and they're like, right. So,
yeah,
I'm just reading this through there. Yes.
Yeah, it's big, Grain. I appreciate you dropping out, or coming on the stream. We've got a Fed meeting on December 18th, so that's next week. We could see another drop, 25 basis point drop in interest rates. So, let's think about this, right? MicroStrategy's credit quality just increased drastically with QQQ inclusion. If the Fed drops interest rates by another 25 basis points, we could, I'm not surprised that Sailors held off on issuing another convertible bond, because now we've got an increase in credit quality and we've got a drop in interest rates. So the bond offering that they can offer next week, if the Fed drops interest rates, is significantly better than what they would be able to offer this week. So taking into consideration time preference, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a $5, $7, $10 billion zero coupon bond offering Christmas week, or first week in January, that is at materially improved terms from all of these catalysts that are on the horizon. So everybody that's looking at the stream right now, this is mstrmoon.com. Check it out. We've got all of the catalysts on there. It's super cool. Whoever put this together, bravo. Keep it going. There's so many things on here. Looking forward to the future. Some people ask, is QQQ a sell the news event? In most circumstances, if you look at the average of all equities getting included in indices, most equities are front run, and industry inclusion in index ETF inclusion events are sell the news events. In this circumstance, I think it's a little bit different because of all of the future catalysts that are on the horizon. FASB fair value accounting change in Q1 2025. We've got potential S&P 500 inclusion. We've got FTX repayments in January. We've got MSCI quarterly review. We've got MicroStrategy World, the January 17th historic option expiration. There's so many catalysts on the horizon that make sense to not sell your position into the passive inclusion from QQQ. So that's the reason for these sites that exist. There are some other sites like MSTR Tracker that's also really good, that pull up statistics like net asset value, where things are trading at net asset value. You can look at US market cap rankings. You can look at NASDAQ rankings. You can look at daily traded volume. You can look at NAV multiplier relative to Bitcoin price. So shout out to Cole Tenold and Lizard Wizard Radu for putting this together and developing this over time. This is totally epic. So there's tons of data out here. You can go check it out. Visit these sites. They're super cool.
Hey, I want to jump in here and say something that one of the things that I always do is that I talk to people in the traditional finance space just so I can get intel about this. And what I find out is that when we use these terms very specifically, what you were just saying, Jeff, about increased credit rating, because now it's in triple Q inclusion, and then the other catalysts. And again, the look of bewilderment when you say that to somebody live, and they're like, you know that they've heard these terms before, but the fact that you're putting these together, they're like, oh, there's like a group that tracks this, and I'm like, yes, and I'm like, they invest money in it, and they're like, just the sheer look of that, and the part that's crazy about it is that the people I tend to talk to have 15 to 20 years in the industry, and they're just completely unaware of it. One of the other metrics that comes up that's quite comical is that if, and I'm sure this is probably true with other brokerage houses, but at Fidelity, they list, there's a page when you go in and you can see top traded stocks by Fidelity customers, right? And MicroStrategy tends to always be in the top 10 or in the top 4 or top 2. And then when you talk to a Fidelity rep and you're like, have you ever heard of MicroStrategy? They're like, no. And it's like walking to McDonald's and like, hey, what's your number one seller? And they don't even know that it's a Big Mac quarter pounder and chicken McNuggets. And you're like, the information is there. And that's something that somebody should always know as a stockbroker is, what are the top 10 traded stocks per day? Because that metric is whether you think it's up or down, somebody thinks it's important if it's in the top 10 list. It just is. And it's just comical when you talk, and you folks should all validate what I say. Go talk to your stockbroker buddies and mention this and look at, when, as you say, look at their face and see the reaction. If they're like, dude, I've never heard of that. That's your validation that you're still early. But on the flip side, you wanted to own MicroStrategy. You know, if you want to pile in later, of course, I'll be buying and selling on the way up of options to get more leverage. But the key part is you wanted to be in today, right? And for the past 2, 3, 4, 5 years, right? So buying in later after the news event, you know, is great. The other thing that was crazy was this. Jeff Park at Bitwise, they did a survey and they said how many people would buy, how many of these advisors would buy Bitcoin, right? Or the Bitcoin ETFs before or after the approval. Now you could buy it with GBTC. The crazy part was 88% of the advisors said they would only recommend Bitcoin and obviously the Bitcoin ETFs after it gets approval. And you're like, wouldn't you want to buy it before that? Like front run it? And 88%, no, they want to buy after. So what you, in my view, is the same thing with this. Oh, well, now that MicroStrategy has been de-risked, because as Jeff said, their credit rating has improved, right? And they're going to have more clarity with FASB accounting and so forth. Now is a good time to buy it because it's been de-risked. You might have missed the first 10 or 15x, but so be it. So that's where it's, people wait for, very specifically, they wait for things, investments to become comfortable. They're uncomfortable buying it early. So now they buy it after it, but they missed the big run up. I still think it's going to run another 10x from here,
Right.
but I'm just one person's opinion.
Yeah, that's like all of the sweaty hands that like, to me, before this QQQ announcement, I had sweaty hands for 3 hours. I was just like, oh my God, is it going to happen or not? And it's like, that's the risk that we took on in holding this trade. It's like we get compensated for that risk. But we get to these new echelons where they're included in QQQ, and all of a sudden, okay, credit quality's increased, risk has dropped. And to your point, Grain, there are other people that that will be entering the scene with the reduction in the risk beyond just the passive buyers. And I think it's valuable to point out here. I'm going to share this on my screen. If you go on the MSTR tracker, there's a daily traded volume ranking here, which I think is really valuable to look at. If you come in here to daily traded volume, you can see where MicroStrategy ranks relative to other publicly traded companies. And I've looked at this every single day for the last 20 days. MicroStrategy has been top 5, if not top 3, for like 15 out of the last 20 days. They've been top 5 for at least 20 out of the last 20 days, which is totally insane if you think about it, right? Like all of these other companies included in these top publicly traded companies are included in the S&P 500. So, and NASDAQ 100 for the most part. So if you think about just the general volume that comes from the S&P 500, which is the largest traded public, index ETF in the world, there's so much volume from all of these other products that is creating noise here. And the fact that MicroStrategy is trading top 5 without being included in the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500 is insane. Once they get included in these indices, like the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500, they're going to number 1, right? This is the most volatile stock in the entire stock market. And there's this passive volume that comes into play. So it's an incredibly interesting stock. Cool metric.
Yeah,
Go
let me
ahead, Greg.
jump in. So, look, huge shout out to Radu. I've never met him talked to him, met him in person. Dude, you're awesome. Your percentage gains are way better than mine. There's no doubt about that. Okay, by like, I don't know, like a 10x, his percentage gains are better than mine. So, shout out to him for making the website. The concept that the traded stock per market cap. Again, if you were to say that metric to any traditional finance person, they would be like, okay, traded per market cap, but is it a big stock? And sure, whatever the market cap is, $100 billion. And they'd be like, oh, I guess it is big. So that metric, they might understand it a little bit, but then you just look at their face. The other person, there's a guy, Torup, who also made a comment. Hold on. What he had said, Torup HODL. He wrote, old broker, I know, still won't buy BTC and has for 6+ years. I've harassed him, but finally did buy MSTR positions. One of the things that I've seen also with my broker friends is, you know what? I really can't recommend MicroStrategy or any of the spot Bitcoin ETFs to my clients and in a business sense. But what they do is they're like, I bought a little bit of MicroStrategy for myself. And you're like, really? You're buying it for yourself, but you can't recommend it to your clients. And the reason why is because of the volatility. Their clients can't handle ever seeing red. Like if they buy it and the next day, for whatever reason, is down 5%, they'll get a phone call from the weak lettuce hands. Oh my God, you bought this. I'm down 5% in a day. Sell it all. I can't make that money back up. And they can't even wait. It's like, really? You're that weak? And that's the reason why they can't recommend it. These people have no tolerance at all or understanding of volatility. They think volatility and risk are the same. And those are two different things. And now it's been de-risked, but it's still going to be volatile, especially if we get into any form of short squeeze or gamma squeeze. And we use these terms, right? And they're like, oh, I guess I understand that. I'm like, okay, how much do you own? I own nothing. I'm like, no, you don't get it. Because if you did get it, if you didn't like it, you would short it. And if you do like it, you'd go long. So you might as well just, you know what? If somebody says that to me in the next 6 months, I'll be like, if you don't own it long and you don't short it, I really don't give a fuck what your opinion is because you're wasting my fucking time. I'm
So
sorry.
true.
Yeah,
Is this
great.
supposed to be PG? Go ahead.
No,
I've cussed plenty of times, so you're fine.
but Grain, to your point about people being hesitant until they see the inclusion, it was even Michael Saylor who said that there's 2 criteria for when you go long on an asset. He said number 1, it's disrupting, and number 2, it's the clear winner. And Bitcoin is clearly disrupting the entire world, but financial market specifically. And, it's kind of like, when Netflix disrupted Blockbuster, or, Apple disrupted basically everything and put it on an iPhone, right? And just basically dematerializing things and putting it on your iPhone. And then when it's the clear winner. So, when the iPhone came out, you're not going to diversify from Apple into Nokia and frickin' BlackBerry, right? Your Apple
No
went up and you're
way.
going to sell it to buy Nokia because it's down. Like it's goodbye now. No, it's not. So, that's what Bitcoin is doing. It's disrupting, and it's the clear winner. And therefore, MicroStrategy, if you look at them with the same lens, they are disrupting and they are the clear winner. And that's my investment thesis. And that's the end of it. Beginning and the end of it right there.
Yeah, you're totally right about that. So, and I got to drop in a couple minutes. But here in Silicon Valley, what we've seen with startups that go really big, for instance, a company like Cisco, they tend to take 60, 70, 80% of the market share. But what they tend to, what people don't really talk about a lot unless you're sophisticated, is that they could take 90% of the profits. And the reason why they could take 90% of the profits in their given sector is because their economies of scale for manufacturing that hardware is what gives them the head start. And it's the same thing with Apple and the App Store. If you were to split off just the App Store, it could be included in the S&P 500 by itself, given the amount of money that it throws off. And again, how much you don't have to build new factories for this, but what you do have to build is some data centers. And it's easier to scale software than it is to do this. So we see this time and time again in Silicon Valley. And what Michael Saylor has done is that, and I've said this all before, is that he's revolutionized finance by making this Bitcoin treasury and increasing the equity position of a company. And if people don't understand equity and their CPAs, they're just like, do not waste your time anymore with them. Go talk to somebody under the age of 30 that you could alter their life by having them buy this. And I'm just going to say this. I'm very happy when somebody points out that the 70 or 80 or 90-year-old person bought Bitcoin. But the person that needs Bitcoin or MicroStrategy more is the younger person that tends to be higher in debt and is trying to start their life and go do it. That's the person that I focus on and I talk to the most. I do talk to 80-year-old people and 90-year-old people about this. And they're like, great, I have some extra money, I'll go buy it, right? Because they're already rich, right? But I want the people that aren't rich to become rich or get out of debt. And that to me is what my focus is going forward.
Yeah, and Soleil, we talked about this on Wednesday. Oh, wow, that feels like last week, but that was literally 2 days ago. We talked about this on Wednesday, but that Louis C.K. Post of what would it take for people to have families again, or for the birth rate to increase in the United States, and I think I just responded Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And like Grain, to your point, like younger people here in this situation are that can benefit the most from this whole circumstance. And like for me personally, the concept of having kids before I found Bitcoin, I was like, I'm never like having kids ever in my entire life. I'm not taking on personal financial bankruptcy risk to have kids. And I was like working my ass off. My wife was working her ass off. We weren't getting any further in life. We were just rat racing it. We were shoving money into our 401ks. We were doing the whole thing. And it was like, how the hell are we not getting ahead here? And like, we're just getting older. And it just like none of this equation was making sense. And finding Bitcoin was almost like a holy grail. It's like, oh my God, this is like our savior. And now that calculus has changed very quickly, and having a safety net to potentially have a family, like that's really appealing now. And it's a really interesting equation thinking about that future and like what's good for population, what's good for society, what's good for the whole world. And you start to think about this Bitcoin is hope, and you kind of get into this thought process. So Grain, I appreciate your passion to get younger people into this. And I hope more younger people will continue this into the future, because it's a very hopeful asset to hold. And And everybody that's young, it should make more sense because these people grew up with computers in their hands, you know? So, yeah, it's exciting times. Exciting times.
Hey, let me go over to Wi-Fi, so hopefully it'll work better.
We can hear you.
You can hear me. So look, with Mark Cuban said that he talked to the Democrats and just came out as a 1 minute clip, and it's not about being political. He just said, look, there's a whole cohort or group of males between the ages of 30 and 18, right? That the only investments that they want to do is crypto based. And if you don't embrace that, you'll just lose those voters. And they chose not to embrace that. The Democrats completely messed that up. And with that, they lost the election because what they don't pitch is if we teach people to become rich, as opposed to just doing more entitlements, right? And I don't know why they got so soft that's what caused them to lose the election. They didn't see it. They were just blinded by it. And so now where we are, right? The most important thing that I do is that, look, folks, I know that I talk about the stuff that I owned, the cars, my friends, what we all did, but we all started out flat broke. There's no doubt about that. All of us started out flat broke. And what we did is we created this. And the most satisfying thing that I can do in my life now is I can help out friends and family members that didn't pay attention. For whatever reason, they can't catch up. It's not their thing, but I could then help them out. And so for me to do that, I've talked about this before, a good pair, my dad has health insurance. And if I'm going to buy him a $7,000 pair of hearing aids, because it wasn't, it was partially covered, that's a lot of money, but that improves his life. So I've already taken care of things like that, or help somebody pay off part of their student loan debt, or give them a laptop so they can improve their life. That's something that's really awesome. So it's not about me having some really expensive, cool things. I mean, it's fun for me, but helping out, seeing that, how that changes somebody else's life is huge for me. And that's what I've committed myself to doing. But I get more likes and more retweets for the crazy stories that I post. And so I also understand there's a social media component of this that drives my follower account, and then from there I can reach more people. So I try to be a little bit controversial, like most people do, in order to drive followers, so then I can help them improve their lives and help improve their reach. So I think that that's really, really important. And by the way, every time everybody says CAGR, if you ever use that term to somebody, again, spell it out, cumulative average growth rate, because you say that and you might assume, oh, you know what that means? Most likely that person has no clue what you're talking about, right? Or if you say, oh, the credit rating of the company went up, and they'd be like, credit rating? Yeah, like the Standard & Poor's credit rating of a company, it has different ratings from AAA all the way down to like triple C or D's, whatever they have, that it now boosted for MicroStrategy, and they'll be like, oh, the credit rating. So there's other functions that Standard & Poor's has, but if you don't say that, then they don't realize it. So I'm just reading, I'm just scrolling through the comments here. So I think that folks, I try and read the comments as they come in, and look, I get naysayers, and that happens, and that's fine. But sometimes the reason why I get irritated at naysayers is because what they're saying is because they're either new or unsophisticated, and it's detrimental to what's going on. And that's the part where I'm like, no, that person over there, because I've been in this now it'll be 8 years in May, and my patience has run short. And so that's the reason I'll say, you know what, I think that you should stop right now. So when I see that's sometimes you get that reaction out of me. So, oh wow, talk more about MicroStrategy. Well, I guess 2 hours of it wasn't
We made
enough.
it. Yeah, we made it. We made it. We made it. I gotta eat some food. It's Friday night, and it's now 8:00 on the West Coast. So I think I'm gonna call this nearly an end here. I'm looking where we've gotten is I'm looking at this whiskey bottle I'm drinking, and it says the impossible equation. Maybe I could.
And hey,
impossible equation.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to drop off and get dinner also. But somebody said, I said cumulative growth rate and it's compounded. So I love when somebody corrects me because I made a mistake, because that means they were listening and they paid attention. So
Hell yeah.
congratulations for somebody to correct me. And it's happened every once in a while. I've said something in a tweet and somebody's like, did you actually mean this? And I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? Difference between compound and cumulative. So sometimes you got to be very precise. And I'm happy when somebody does that, because that means they're paying attention and they actually understand what I'm talking about. But I'm going to go grab some dinner. Dan, Bitcoin Gal, Ryan, Jeff, Nithis, thank you so much, folks, and have a great night.
Good to see you, Grant.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks. Take care.
We'll give everybody a little chance for final thoughts.
Yes.
Maybe I'll go thanks, Grain. Maybe I'll go to Soleil. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm just super stoked. I think when I saw that we got the QQQ inclusion, I felt a disturbance in the force, and it was 1,000 bear tweets being deleted.
Yes, everybody's going back in their historical tweets and deleting tweets. Yeah, take that. Yeah. Oh my God, people are like, there's no chance they'll ever get into QQQ. How about them apples? It's just boom, right on the glass. Over to you. We'll go to Dan.
It's really exciting. Thanks for hosting this, Jeff. And for the comments, Grain did give me the Porsche. He got me the Porsche, and it's getting PPF'd right now. So
PPF.
He's the real deal.
What is that? What does that mean?
Like protection film.
Paint protection film. And by the way,
Grain,
Dan,
where's my Porsche? Damn it.
Jeff, we can share.
Ryan and Jeff, you guys, you take my phone calls and I'll buy you. And you know what, Bitcoin Gal, maybe you need we'll get
Everybody
you a Porsche SUV.
I will call you, Grain.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
And if you need floor mats, I got you covered. I'll chip in.
Okay, over to you, Colleen. Any final thoughts? What do you think?
Yeah, final thoughts.
Welcome to your first stream.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast. So my final thoughts are, I make no predictions on short term. I'm excited about tonight, but what's going to happen next week or the week after, I have no clue. So I had posted this, I don't know, earlier in the week or something, that patience is your superpower, and just being patient and just like buy and wait and hold, good things are going to take time, and the best things are worth the wait. So just, wait it out, and great things are to come for all of us.
Yeah. Lower your time preference. Don't get over leveraged.
Exactly.
And you'll feel really comfortable. Like you start to sit in the volatility and you're like, wow, okay. Yeah. I feel pretty comfortable with this. You
Exactly.
understand the size and the scale of the trade and everything going on. I think that's fantastic advice, Colleen. Thank you for joining. Over to you, Ryan. Final thoughts.
Yeah, so Jeff, this whole thing has been fun, between our friendship, between Quampros, between doing all this stuff. That's the good side. However, this has also been incredibly taxing on the mental state of things, because it's not like people are just pontificating about like, this sports team sucks. It's like, no, I'm betting the fucking farm on this, and all of you people want to like flood my family's bags with no real like proof of work in terms of like the research that they have not done. So the one thing I really just want to say is like, I just really want people to take care of themselves. Finance is a business, and watch Industry. I think it's on HBO Max. Like, finance is a business that it'll kill you if you stay in it and stay obsessed long enough, versus something like, I love using football as the analog here. They play one game on Sunday, and then they have a full week to prepare for the next Sunday. In our line of work, the prices really never stop moving. The news flow never stops moving. It's always nitty gritty, detail oriented. So yeah, I just hope people have their routines down, whether it's gym, meditation, a book club, whatever it is. Walk in nature, get away from the screens every once in a while, so that you can come back and get after it. And I know I have to take that advice myself, but I think that's an important point to wrap on for me. Thanks, everyone.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you for joining. Thank you everybody on the screen for joining. Thank you to final update, the 95,619 people that have joined the stream. Holy moly. That is 5 times more than our largest stream ever. So exciting times, exciting days. Congratulations to everybody that has been holding this stock for a really long time. I mean, QQQ inclusion is a great indicator for the future. It's a great long-term indicator for the horizon and what's to come. So congratulations to everybody. Thank you to everybody that's being here. And yeah, I agree with Ryan's comments. The next 24 months, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, the horizon is going to be electric. Digital assets are here and they're here to stay. Go work out, go outside, go touch grass, get out in nature, get back in touch with reality, and make sure that the things that are important to you, float to the top. And don't forget about life and the things that are right in front of you. At the end of the day, a lot of this stuff is just money, and it may help you improve your life, but think about designing your life. A lot of people that are on the stream have the opportunity to design their life in the way that they can afford. And that's a really unique place to be in. So congratulations to everybody that's been here and everybody holding into the future. We're going to continue running MSTR True North. We'll be back next Wednesday. We'll probably take a week off during Christmas because I think the following Wednesday is actually Christmas Day, and we'll be running this into the future. So thank you, everybody. Congratulations. We're going higher. That's all I got. Cheers.
Thanks, Jeff.
Catch you later. See ya.
Thanks.